Hello, lovely listeners, it's Liam here, just popping in before this week's episode with a bit of admin. As some of you may have noticed, we quietly removed, I guess, our theme song and stings. This was because of a preventable issue around licensing, I guess is the fair way of saying it, but never mind, we won't go into that here. But basically, we had to get rid of the music for reasons. Thankfully, this whole experience led us to reach out to a musician and ask them to compose a theme for Indieventure, our very own theme. We got in touch with indie musician Ollie Newbury, who composed for us this beautiful theme, as well as some stings and some outro music that we think really encapsulates the calming, welcoming, and very odd vibe of the podcast. Ollie was so patient with us, he responded to all of our feedback, and what he's created, I think, is absolutely superb. You can find Ollie on Instagram. His handle is @noobsmusic. That's NEWBS music. Please do check him out. He's got a lot of funky beats on there. And as I was looking on his Instagram this very morning, I realised he's in a band called 88 Miles. And they have a single called Sophie, which is an absolute bop. Been listening to that for a little while now. So yep, just wanted to pop in, let you know what those lovely tunes are all about. I hope you like them, and I hope you also like this episode. But before we dive in, here's one last Rachel quack for old time's sake. Bye.
Quack.
We did it.
We did it, guys.
We did it.
We did it.
We recorded a podcast. Good night.
There is nothing more satisfying in the edit, though, like lining up those claps. I'm just like, it's ready for the edit. And I'm like, here we go.
Nice.
I love it.
It feels good, doesn't it?
It feels so good.
Immediately into you talking about horses or something like Unhinged, or me telling a vomit story.
Oh, yeah, true.
Oh my God. Every time we're like, we're not going to do a cold open.
No
okay,
cold
not
open.
this time.
It's not happening. We're not doing
But have we inadvertently created a cold opening by acknowledging that we don't have one?
Like every time I wonder if this will be the case.
What about a warm open?
What's a warm open?
What about a hot open?
No one ever talks about
Isn't
hot
that just a
opens.
hot open?
What?
None of that. Cease.
Cease and desist. No hot openings.
Isn't a hot opening just an introduction? Isn't that just
Is it?
introducing the podcast?
Isn't the point of cold open that there's like no context? It just feels like a conversation that was already going on and then there's no context and you like go into it and you like start in media res or whatever. Is that what a cold open's meant? We've been doing these for so long, I don't even know what one is.
I literally have no idea.
A cold open is a narrative technique used in television and films. It's the practice of jumping directly into a story at the beginning of the show before the title sequence or opening credits are shown. Oh, so it's just a conversation before. It's anything before the introduction.
For the intro. Okay, interesting.
So if someone were to burp, that would
So we've
just
been
be a cold
using it
open.
right, but for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
And now we've created the most meta cold open in which we learn what a cold open is.
Oh, well, this is wonderful. Shall we start? That's probably the best way to put it. I'm not...
Have we already started? Has it begun?
Oh, it begins. It begins.
Genuine fear in your eyes. Or excitement. I find it very hard to read your face right now.
I have so many expressions at one point.
Oh my God. Right. Hello and welcome once again to Indieventure, the indie gaming podcast hosted by us. That's me, Rebecca Jones, and my friends Rachel Watts.
Hey, hello.
And Liam Richardson.
Hello.
So, today's episode is all about time loops, the uneasy sense of being caught in an endlessly repeating cycle that can only be broken by finding a way to avoid carrying out the same actions over and over and over. And yeah, no, I can't keep the bit up any longer, but it had to be done. So,
Brilliant.
So good.
In case you missed our last episode, we actually did do an episode on time loops. And that was the joke, and now I've ruined it, but I just really wanted to do that. It occurred to me like weeks ago to do that because I knew I'd be hosting the one after the time loop. Anyway, but that was fun.
So good.
We had fun.
Incredible.
But now on to this week's actual topic, which is the first ever Indieventure listener mailbag. Yeah, so if you are a regular listener, you probably know we spent the last month or so shamelessly begging for you to send in your burning questions. And like, bless your hearts, you actually did though. Like, thank you so much. We were a little bit worried that no one would, hence the shameless begging. But like, as it turns out, we actually got so many that we probably won't be able to answer them all in this episode. But don't worry, it's going to be a recurring feature that we run every now and again. So if your question doesn't come up today, it's still on the list. We'll try to get to it next time. Thank you so much, everyone who sent in questions.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Just a little bit of admin up top to let you know, we've received a few questions about the possibility of us starting a Discord and or a Patreon, and also asking where our music has gone. So I'm just going to say now, to avoid disappointment, that we're not going to be talking about that a lot today. Just because there's a lot of admin going on in the background for us still around all of that, and conversations that we still need to have before we can say anything about stuff like that. But provided you understand that there's no promises, let's just kind of say, don't go anywhere, watch this space. This is all stuff that we're definitely kind of looking into. Since this is kind of a hobby for the three of us, timescales can be quite long in getting things up and running. So we try not to kind of like set ourselves deadlines by talking about it on the pod. But genuinely, it is so flattering to be asked about all these things. Like, thank you so much for being like so enthusiastic. It's really heartening. And we promise that when we do make a decision about any of that stuff, you won't be the first to know, but you'll know quickly, I promise. So it's all good. Stuff's happening, and we'll let you know when we can. And yeah, before we begin, we'd also like to give a special shout out to listener Simon, who not only sent us a bunch of really good questions for this episode, but also made, I think, the very first piece of Indieventure fan art in the form of an animated short that you could watch on Twitter at Simon Draws Stuff, or I'll put a YouTube link in the show notes as well, so you can go and watch that today, because it's very, very good fun.
Simon,
I watched it on YouTube today
Simon
as well. The comments are lovely. The YouTube comments are lovely. Like, I don't know why that comes from. I've never seen a YouTube video with such nice comments before.
Oh, really? Are they nice?
Yeah, there's like really nice
really
YouTube
nice
comments from people who are like, oh, I should check out this podcast. You know what? I teared up when I saw that for the first time.
I was
just
get it,
so
honestly.
blown
It's really
away
flattering.
by. It was just so like, wait, what? Like,
Yeah, I know, right?
that we love this thing that we make because, you know, we've said this so many times. It's just a Discord call that we publicly put out there. But just watching like the fact that he got our likenesses from Twitter avatars, and he just captured the energy of what it's actually like to record the podcast really well. Oh, it was so funny.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's really good. Like thank you so much, Simon. It's a genuine delight to get to see that. And like, really
it was a very special moment.
It was.
I remember seeing on Twitter and just like immediately sitting up on the couch and being like, oh my god.
It was a very surreal moment, but in like a very nice way, to see myself as a cartoon.
Yes.
It was very nice.
So nice.
We all changed our Discord avatars immediately
We did.
and then couldn't, because they were only small on Discord, could no longer distinguish who we were talking to.
Yeah, I have several times had a long conversation with Rachel, who turned out to be Liam, only after several minutes. Not that it matters, because the three of us just talk basically in one big conversation all the time. Mm-hmm. Extremely rarely we split off into duos to discuss something spoilery that the other one's not aware of yet, but usually it's just the three of us. I
think it was a bit weird when Rebecca was like, oh, that Liam's really annoying me.
Yeah.
Is he annoying you? And I was like, I mean, yes.
Oh, the truth comes out.
But also, like, I need to put out a public service announcement because of, like, people being like, wow, that seems really fun to put Skittles in your mouth and pretend your teeth are falling out. Just be careful, please. It's a choking hazard. Do not die.
Yeah, also, I was
put Skittles in your mouth. I do not want to be the reason that you, like,
I wasn't going to admit this, but when I went on holiday, I went on a little bit of a road trip last week for my partner's birthday. Skittles were our like car sweet for that. I tried it and I couldn't get the magic. I couldn't make
really?
I couldn't make the magic happen. But then like I was
How
trying
many Skittles was it?
I just tried with one and I could not get the
one.
I don't know if it's because like I'm very like I'm very careful with my head positioning, I guess, because I get migraines. So I was like, I'm not going to go too much. But
right, okay.
I just couldn't get the velocity going, I think, to really.
Velocity, right.
I feel like you really need to get your head going.
Yeah, I think you probably do. Like, my moshing days are long behind me, and I feel that's kind of the
you need
an
actual full on rotation of the head. There's many different techniques, all of which I don't recommend, by the way. I do not recommend. Please don't die.
Can you imagine?
Oh my
this
God.
new epidemic sweeping the nation.
It's like the Tide Pod thing, but kids and Skittles instead. Please.
Oh no. Oh, that's not what you want your name attached to, is it? It's like the Rachel Watts challenge. You're like, what? No. 14 deaths.
Oh god! Oh, or like the plank. Didn't someone die from planking as well?
Did
Wasn't
someone die from
that a thing
planking?
as well?
Oh, that sounds
They planked off a building. I think and something.
No, that's not funny. I
think it was something awful.
That's just it's not a funny thing
See,
to happen.
this is what
but
I
the
mean,
phrase,
everyone.
they planked off a building is like. Oh my god!
So everyone just needs to be really careful and safe, and probably chew their food and not pretend all their teeth are falling out.
God.
Just
they
saying.
planked off a building.
I mean, accurate, I guess, but also
no, they did.
What the hell?
Is that
Where were
real?
we?
That's not real. I'm googling this.
Honestly,
did
Google
anyone die
Google
from
it.
planking?
They did.
As a general rule, people are more fragile than you think, and someone has
you're right.
died from almost anything.
They did.
Oh yeah, someone did die. Or someone literally did fall off a building. Oh dear.
So please
Don't
be
do it.
careful.
Yeah, be careful.
Yeah, we don't want anyone to die from the Rachel Watts challenge. So
Plank.
yeah.
Low to the ground and chew your Skittles.
Eat Skittles responsibly,
Right?
and you'll be a-okay.
Plank low to the ground.
It's, I think, important
I mean,
advice.
it's sound life advice, I guess.
Yep. Oh dear. It's a good core workout, but just on the ground.
I have sad, vivid memories of being in London while in sixth form, wearing, like that classic nerd outfit they always put on Twitter, where it's the Legend of Zelda lime green T-shirt and the shorts.
Oh yeah. Sure.
Oh
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, there's literally photographs of me planking in London wearing that exact outfit.
Not in London on the
in
floor.
London as
Ugh.
well. Yeah.
Oh no.
Just peak 2010 energy. Anyway.
I'd like to take it back, roll it back a little bit to Simon's lovely animation, because
Simon.
I would like to start us
Simon.
off with one of the questions that Simon sent in. Thank you so much for sending a ton of really good questions. It was hard to pick just one to start us off with, but I wanted to start with this one because I really, really love this one, which is, if there was an all-indie Smash Bros, which 3 indie game characters would each of us want to be included? Which I thought was a lovely one to start off with.
I love this question.
Yeah,
It's so
this
good.
is such a good one.
Makes me happy. Any thoughts? Any takers? I've picked 2. I'm struggling to pick my third. Well,
what are your 2?
It's
You
3
go first.
each. It's 3 each, right? That's the rule that's been laid down. 3 each.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you don't include the goose from Untitled Goose Game, then you're missing a trick because that goose loves violence.
Oh my god, you're so right. Yes.
It's got to be the goose. No question. Also, because it's me, I've got to pick a Monster Prom character, and after some thought, I've decided Damien because he loves a fight. He'd be having a great time. So,
Oh yeah,
good. I like that.
and I don't know, I'm stuck for a third one. So, guys, if you've got any inspiration to bring to this,
I'll tell you my 3. Maybe it'll inspire you to think of a third. So I think May from Night in the Woods would be a really fun character.
yeah,
I think the Night in the Woods characters, the way they move, would be so fun to control.
That is literally my thought process. Yes, I think the animation work on May will be very good. She could do that dance that she does as one of her taunts. Baseball bat as a primary weapon. I always like Smash Brothers characters that are a little bit quirky in their control system. They sort of take inspiration from the original source material to create really interesting fighters. I think the Furies from Hades, so not just Meg, but all 3 Furies, and you could swap between them for different abilities. I think that would be really fun.
Yes.
That's a good one.
And my third one is Tim, the terrible boy from Braid. Not because I want to play as him, but because I want to kill him with a hammer.
Oh, okay.
So I want to fight him. So I think he'd be a great addition to never play as, but always to fight again.
Just like grab his tie and like swirl him
Swing him
around and
round.
actually like strangle him. His eyes popping out. That'd be a great weapon.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Tim, the
good.
terrible boy.
That's a
They
good
would
one.
be my three. Yeah.
So mine were I thought about the same. I was thinking about like what a good like final smash would be because that's how I would choose my characters.
Oh, that's a really good thought process.
One of mine was the main character from Chicory who has the paintbrush. I think there's so much shit you could do with the
that's
paintbrush
so
wise.
good.
Like a final smash could be like painting the whole screen with like a beautiful color, or like kind
I
of
love
like
that.
like keeping people like splashing people with paint and drawing like in game. I thought that'd be
Yep.
really cool. I
That's
thought Monica from Doki Doki would be really fucking funny as like a
Oh,
fourth
that's
wall.
so
Like
weird.
your
so
your screen would like glitch. So you couldn't see what was going on, and like her face would
That's
appear
terrifying.
like as a
I
final
love
smash.
it.
And also just like, I don't know, like a cute girl in a school uniform, like beating the shit out of other characters. It's just a
That would
really
be
cute
great.
image.
Yes.
So I really like her. And then also No Man from Genesis Noir, who is like this kind of like,
Ooh.
this like smooth jazz loving detective. And then like their final smash could be like, because it's kind of cosmic, like the big bang happens and like all the characters get sucked into a black hole and like, I don't know, get hit with like big like musical notes or jazz symphonies, stuff like that. I was like, these are like kind of stylish characters that I'd really like to see. Like, No Man could be like even like an item that you like can like throw at someone, or like an item like
That'd
a
be
black
cool.
hole or something that everyone gets sucked into. Yeah,
I
that's
love
a
that.
really good question. There were so many more. Like with like May and Night in the Woods, like characters that would feel good. Obviously, Hollow Knight would probably be up there as well. Just
Yeah.
like
That'd be amazing.
the Lamb from Cult of the Lamb would be a really cute character to jump around with.
Oh, that'd be great. And their final smash could be one of their like the rituals that you perform
Yes,
with all the
yes.
followers. All the followers would crowd on the battlefield.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Yeah,
that'd be really
that would
good.
be
you just
cool.
like chuck cultists at whoever.
Oh,
is.
so like the lamb, so it's a bit like Olimar in Smash Brothers with the Pikmin.
yes, with the Pikmin.
That
yeah, but
is
with cultists.
I like that a lot.
That's cool.
Also, the super hot guy. So like, I don't know, there's something like really
Oh.
cool about like shooting and then like the slow-mo would happen. Like a final smash would be like, it'd be in slow motion, but you like change, like you just like dart from one player to the next
I love
and beat the
that.
shit out of them. That'd be really
Nice.
cool.
I would love to see this
Oh.
happen, genuinely.
Yeah,
I was
this is a
thinking
good question.
Stanley from Stanley Parable, but the narrator narrates everything you do.
Oh my god.
That's good.
And like he gets more
Unhinged
powerful
was
if you
good.
don't play the game properly. Like it like charges him up or something.
Oh, that's a
And
brilliant
that'd be quite
idea.
fun.
Like,
Really good
how
one.
how difficult will it be to get this off the ground? Because I think this is a great. This is a
I think
great
it's fine.
idea.
I think
Yeah.
IP rights are notoriously easy to secure.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like,
I also thought about like like ooblets as well.
Ooblets. Oh my god.
So
Ooblets
instead of
is
like
good.
you have like dance battles, so you just have like with Olimar again with Pikmin, you just have like a bunch of ooblets that you like throw at people, or they just dance around or something. I don't know. I just like that idea of like
I
all
like the
these
idea
tiny
of,
creatures.
like dance battles is always a nice alternative.
Yeah.
Well, like non-violent, it's like Wii Fit Trainer in Smash is technically non-violent.
Yes,
They're just
yes.
doing yoga poses, and if you happen to be next to them, that's collateral damage.
Oh,
I like the
that's
thought
so
of having
true.
like like Frog Detective, who maybe is like bumbling, and all of his attacks are him like smelling a flower, but like he leans over really hard with
Oh
his
my
magnifying
God.
glass and like whacks people by accident and stuff
Oh
like
my
that.
god! And his final smash could be like him on the scooter, like meet meet, and then like everyone just
That'd
like
be so
crashes
good.
off his screen on a scooter. That scooter was iconic.
Oh,
That game
I'd be
needed
like
a
the third
scooter.
one. So good.
Oh, I could talk about this question for so long.
Yeah,
There's
there's,
so
like,
many,
so
good
many.
ones.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was a great question. Thanks, Simon.
Thank you, Simon.
thank you, Simon.
for everything, Simon. And that was so much fun. I'm only sad that isn't ever going to be a real thing.
Should we pick another one then?
Yeah, who
Yeah.
wants to pick next? I think we're just gonna take it in turns to pick stuff out of the bag.
One of my besties, Shay, sent some questions in. Thank you, babes. Love you loads. And they said, what were your first games that made you aware of / interested in indie games? Which is a lovely question.
It's such a good question.
Right?
Thanks, Shay. Love you.
Thank you, Shay.
So yeah, who wants to go first? This is a really good one.
Shall I go first? Because I feel like I've talked about this on the podcast before, so it's probably not worth going into super amounts of detail for me. But I feel like I've talked about Monster Prom being like a real turning point in my life in sort of like consuming video games. Because while I definitely played indie games before, I hadn't really been aware of them as indie games until I got really into Monster Prom, and that was also like the game that got me into visual novels and dating sims and all that. So yeah, like a surprisingly big moment in my life for saying it's, reading short chapters about dating monsters.
Yes.
I like that story though, because I think it like awakened something in you.
Oh yeah.
That is like
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I really like that.
I like monsters now. But yeah.
Just whispered quietly to yourself as you boot up the game for the first time, like, oh no. My life has changed.
This is going to be a problem for me.
Like vampire boys and mermaid girls and oh my god.
Sweating profusely. Like, ooh.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great origin story.
Yeah.
It is.
It all started from there. Even though, as I say, I played Journey before that, and I definitely played a few other indies, but I hadn't really known they were indies. I just kind of like they'd been kind of there, and I played them without thinking about the provenance, I guess. But this was the point at which I was like, oh, like low budget can still be like super. And that's where it all began.
I was thinking about this a lot, and I think mine's very similar to what you've just said there about how you never really saw the difference for a long time.
Yeah.
Like,
definitely.
I grew up as mainly a PC player, and
Same.
I used to have a lot of demo discs from my dad bought PC Gamer and PC Zone. So I just had sort of like a lot of access to smaller demos, and also a lot of those discs would have like shareware on them. So sort of the idea of like untraditional distribution models and smaller teams was always like, that was just, I mean, I was a kid, so it was just a game. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a game on this disc and we're going to play it.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be the biggest game in the world, or it could be only you and 3 other people have ever played it and you've got no idea when you're that age.
Yes.
100%. So I was looking through my Steam purchase history, because I've had Steam since 2005, maybe, whenever Half-Life 2 came out. And the first game I ever bought on there was Audio Surf, which was the music game where you would put your own MP3s into it and it would generate tracks, and then you would hit the notes, a bit Guitar Hero-y, a little bit before Guitar Hero. And I think maybe that was the first time I was ever like, oh, this feels a little bit different to the kind of things I was playing at the time. But I think the very first time I ever truly thought to myself, oh, this is something different, was Bastion. And I think the reason why Bastion really stood out was because it was part of Xbox's Summer of Gaming festival.
Right.
They used to do these they used to do indie gaming festivals basically, right? And you would get 5 indie games or whatever, like Meat Boy and Bastion and Explosion Man. And yeah, I think Bastion was the first time I ever really took notice. And then from then on, it was Hotline Miami and all these other kind of things. And yeah, so I think probably Bastion, but Audio Surf maybe a little bit before then.
Yeah, I remember playing Bastion really early on because it was like part of the, I mean, we've talked about this before, but like a humble bundle for indies, or like a really early indie humble bundle.
Was it the first humble bundle?
It might be. It was
really?
It was Bastion, Bastion, Super Meat Boy, Super Brothers Sword and Sorcery.
Yes. Yes.
Something else. Snap, a photography one maybe. I don't remember. But that was definitely part of my the reason I got into indies as well, was that bundle. I think I liked Sword and Sorcery, but maybe didn't get along with Meat Boy so much, and that was all good. I think for me, what locked me in was playing Proteus. I love Proteus. Proteus is like one of my favorite games of all time. I'm still like I still think about it like quite regularly. I wrote my dissertation for my master's on Proteus.
Did you?
I love that game. Yeah, for my master's I wrote about, because there was that conversation happening about like, well, is it a game? Obviously it is now, but back then a lot of outlets were like, this isn't a game. you don't do shit. And it was like, well, actually, there are other ways of engaging with the game beyond just like shooting and killing things. So this is like years ago. So those conversations were still happening. So I was like, this game is great. I love it so much. It's like, it was a walking sim before even like a walking sim was like a thing. So yeah, I wrote my dissertation on it. I love Proteus. So yeah, from then on, I was like, I'm going to go out of my way to find games that don't naturally fit into this conception that I have of them. And Proteus was the start of that. Like, I love that game so much.
That's such an interesting and cool answer. Like,
Oh,
makes me getting thirsty over cartoon monsters seem quite shallow by comparison.
Personally, I think each of our answers explains the way that we approach indie games to a T. I think they are probably the answers people could have expected.
So true.
That's actually really, really true.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
Oh dear.
Oh, and if Shay had a second question as well, which we thought, Liam, you thought would get like pretty spicy, which was what is a game each of you would generally like to put into the Indieventure vault that you know the other two would despise being in there? I love the drama and I love the spice of that question. Thank you so much.
It's definitely a conversation starter. I really like that one. I'm glad that you've gone for that one as well. Because it's like, it's a difficult one, right? Because we like, I don't know if this comes across in the podcast, but we get along really quite well with each other. So like, there's not a lot.
We do. It's true.
There's not a lot of like, it's not like the recording's off and then we're at each other's throats. It would be quite hard to start an argument in this group, I think.
Oh my God, like the Queer Eye drama happening right now?
I've been reading into that. It's
Me
wild,
too.
isn't
And
it?
they all like hate each other behind the scenes.
know.
And like Bobby got booted and everyone was like, what's happening? And then, oh my God, the tan drama. Anyway, we're not like that. It would
No,
be
we're
great
not
if
like
we
that.
were.
I
No, we're
don't know
not
what
like that
that
at
is,
all.
but I
No.
assure you that we're not like that.
Oh my God, we'll send you shit after. I'll put it all in
There's a
the
lot.
I will be
Yeah,
very
there's a lot.
entertained to check it out.
I'll send you. Oh my God, we'll find one TikTok that summarizes it in the minute because it definitely exists. It's great.
Sounds great.
But yeah.
I love to be informed as quickly as possible because there's just so much shit kicking off in the world at the moment.
Well, you know what? There's an app, TikTok. You know,
Yep.
me and
Oh, you
Liam
get
are
all-
firmly.
Stop trying to
You
get
get
me on
all your-
TikTok, but also keep
All
sending me
your Kate
TikToks.
Middleton drama you can get on TikTok at the moment.
Oh, at least I know what
believe me.
that is. At least I know what
my
that is.
God.
So that's something.
I've seen so many TikTok deep dives into like looking at her hands and like, oh,
Mate, I am firmly of the opinion that picture is from November 2023 and they've changed the colours of the clothes.
absolutely. You can tell because the pavement doesn't match up. So where was that from? The pavement doesn't match up.
Oh, this is
Her
great.
zipper stopped halfway down. What's that
Oh.
about? I'm so sorry, but really quickly, Liam, have you seen that the TikTok drama about like it's not a drama, but the story about like who the fuck did I marry? Have you seen that?
No.
The 52-part TikTok series where a woman just talks about like
Excuse
her
me?
ex. Oh my God, it's like 52 episodes 'cause they are like 15 to 20 minutes long each, and
Send
she just
that
goes
to
in.
me
She just goes into
immediately.
like who does she marry and this like psycho and everything. It's like really
Oh my-
interesting.
Please.
Rebecca, I'll send it
Please
to you
send that.
too if you want.
I'll check that out, sure.
You just need
Anyway,
to download
what-
the TikTok app.
What was your point? That we don't really like each other. We've got nothing in common.
Oh dear. Yeah, it was just basically I took this question as like how would you like lob a grenade into this relationship and try to
Yes,
try to
I was
destroy
hoping
it as quickly as possible.
one of you would take it that way. Okay.
Because like I don't think that there's anything I've never felt like there is any game that I could admit to liking that would have me instantly judged by either of you.
No.
So I was like, what I've got to do here is I've got to attack the integrity of the vault. Right, that's got to be the way that I
Okay.
approach this.
Okay.
And so I was like, right, how do I just basically like nullify its purpose entirely? And that is by stretching the definition of indie beyond breaking point and just being like, right, how do we like? Because I know that we've been into this a few times. Like, what is an indie really? And like the definitions are so porous. And I was like, I would fully just be there, like, right, I'm gonna spam this thing with all of the high end double A's with like AAA publishers and like, the technically it's an independent studio self-publishing, but it is in no way spiritually an indie, but like I can force these things in to the vault. And that is how I would make you guys mad if I wanted to make you guys mad, but I'm not going to. So.
Gotta be honest though, like I can't see you picking any game, even if it was that, and me just being like, absolutely not. Like I just like, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I think that we probably are too easygoing to actually get into a fight about it. But I was just like, if I was trying to annoy you, that's what I would do. I would be like, right, okay, I'm just like I'm gonna ignore the kind of spirit of the vault and just like, because the thing is, I think most of the games that I've truly loved in my life genuinely have been at that kind of double A level.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's always a temptation there, but I'm like, the vault is really to help us like have this sense of what deserves highlighting and like maybe, bring to the fore like smaller team games or games that didn't receive marketing. Or this, like, we have noble intentions with the vault. And if I could just drown all that out with a lot of the double A, like Square Enix published, like, all of these things that I could just do. And like, it wouldn't be just a one-off. I think you would both be very open to, and like, but if I just did it all the time, if I just constantly was like, no.
See, I think, right, because we normally talk about our vault picks before we record the episode. We're getting like really invested in this question.
I love this so much.
Yeah, this is a good one.
I think if you were trying to put in like Life is Strange all the time, I know that we're good friends enough that I would be like, hey, I don't think that's quite the point. Like, I'd love to talk to you about this. I feel like we'd have a really healthy conversation about it.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like it wouldn't bother me because I feel like we'd have a dialogue about it. There is one thing you could put in the vault that would make me genuinely upset. And I don't know if either of you know what it is.
No, I'm trying to think.
Was this what you alluded to on the group
It's what
chat
I alluded
before?
to earlier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I feel like if you put Ori and the Blind Forest in, it would break me.
Really?
I do. I feel like I would have like, because it's just indie enough that I think you could do it, but because it's published by Microsoft, I think it would like make me like,
oh gosh,
I don't know about that one, my dudes.
Oh, that's just your limit. That's just your line.
It has to go in.
I kind of love that.
Be.
I love that.
Okay, I honestly thought you were gonna. That is a good one. I thought Braid might be. We've already, brought up Braid enough this episode, way too much. But if I generally was like, guys, I've chosen. I've replayed a game recently, and I really do think Braid needs to go into the vault. I've watched 12 hours of Jonathan Blow explain why this game is really important.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think I'd be more concerned that you'd been radicalized rather than...
Yeah,
I really think that this game... Wasn't Braid actually one of the Humble Bundle games with that?
I was just looking. It was in Humble Bundle 2. Braid was in.
Okay, so
Holy
it's
shit.
2. Yeah, so guys, I think I've had a change of heart, actually. I think that game is... I think that... Could you imagine?
Oh,
but do you know what? If you said that, I'd replay it because I'd be like, oh, I must be missing something. If Rachel, I'll tell you who would play it. My wife would buy it immediately if you said that. But I feel like I'd replay it. And I'd be like, oh dear, is something happened to Rachel? It's like,
I think the thing is, if you did genuinely come in with that, you would give a really well reasoned and well thought out and like compelling argument. If you just came in and were like, no, Braid is good, I'd be like, okay, blink twice if you're here against your will. Like,
is Jonathan Blow broke into your home? Is he?
Is he in the cupboard?
Yes, I was in the cupboard. We would need to ask each other that if we were to see if the other people were AI.
Oh,
we need to ask that question.
Nice.
Oh
Yep.
no, AI's
Who would you marry in Stardew?
I'm freaking out now because I'm like, oh my god, what if a really, really good AI came into this call one day and imitated one of us? That's like,
there's enough. We talked about this. There's enough.
Terrifying.
Oh god.
I think my answer to this would be immortality.
Rachel's face.
If you fucking, I swear to God, that's a really good answer. Do not.
When I zoomed in on her boob, I just really made me feel like this was peak art.
Yeah.
I cannot. That honestly, I'm sweating.
Oh god.
That's a really good answer.
That's great, to be fair.
I honestly,
friendship ended.
I think I would have to reconsider.
Oh, funny.
Ugh.
No, I don't think. Okay, Fuck me. I don't want to talk about immortality. I don't
Me
wanna-
neither, because a lot of people I really respect like that game. And
Yeah,
I
same,
find
like,
it really
I
hard
do
to
know-
chew on.
I do know people who really clicked with it, and like I respect their opinions, but at the same time, I'm like,
Who were they? Who were they though?
Name them.
Name him.
Full name and address.
Twitter handle, go. Look, listen, I
Oh.
Bank
understand.
detail.
I understand. But also, that's a really good answer.
That's
honestly,
so good.
though.
See, I very much interpreted this question as like what game that you would genuinely like consider putting in the vault would, wind up the other two. So I approached it from that point of view. I didn't really just take what's the most like what is the most flame bait
Like,
choice possible.
I don't
for the other
think
two.
anything I would put in the vault you two would object to.
No,
I just don't think.
I don't think
No.
that.
I don't know. We would have to talk about immortality. We would have to talk about it. We would.
Yeah.
Because it's with immortality, for me, it's not just about like, it's like, I don't know. I mean,
The thing is,
Oh,
that's
she-
a good
Are you
one.
are you about to have a take on this? This is quite.
No,
I held my
I'm
breath
not.
there.
I am not touching that game.
The
I don't
thing
know.
is, we do the vault by category, right? It's not just sort of like we
We do.
approach
that
it
is
with a
true.
question every time, and then we answer the question
Yeah,
with,
you're
with
right.
the choice. And I would just be like, what question would lead to the answer immortality? It's an interesting thought experiment.
Hmm.
Um,
That's a great question and a great answer.
I can't believe how much I thought that would be like a cheap joke and we'd all laugh and move on. But this is like, I think I've broken Rich.
Rachel's face.
Honestly,
the horror on Rachel's face.
That is like, yeah, but we know.
We do know, yeah.
My
I
goodness.
remember the day reviews came out for Immortality. I remember the day. I remember going through Twitter. I'm getting flashbacks.
Mm.
Let's go for this one. So this is by Jam Warrior, a long time listener of our
Yes!
Don't
stuff.
worry.
So hello, Jam Warrior.
Jammy!
Who very politely messaged me on Discord and was like, I can't find the email. Are you okay if I message? And I thought it was very
Oh.
nice. Lots of good questions. So here's one. Do any of the gang do any tabletop gaming, be it board games, RPG, war games, or other? If so, what are your favourites? And to drag it video games related, any tabletop gaming adjacent video games you enjoy. They also said,
Ooh.
I got big into Armello during the pandemic when I couldn't meet with the people I used to do weekly real board games with. Though now reality is back, I rarely have the time for the extended play sessions it takes. So yes, board games, tabletop games. I'm going to pass this to Rachel first because
Yeah.
I know that you're a big
Mm.
board game aficionado, aren't you?
I am. I love a board game. I haven't played one in a while though, because I don't know, moving house and everything. They've just been gathering dust. But my favorite board games, I definitely like more cozy board games. I'm not really into your 5 to 6 hour.
Twilight Imperium or whatever.
Yes, I was just trying to think of that. Twilight Imperium. I'm very much more like an hour, 2 hour tops, very light-hearted in subject matter. So a couple of mine would be Everdell, where you play as like you're building this community of cute critters and you have different jobs and it's like an engine builder. I also really like Wingspan, which is like a bird watching board game, and that is just really gentle and
What?
nice. Yeah, it's like you have a board in front of you. There's like 100 cards of like different birds, and you essentially, when birds come up to the board, you have to kind of like coax them into like your area through different
Aw.
means.
Oh,
Whether that
sounds
be
That's
different.
great.
cute.
It's so cute, and like there's like a little birdhouse where you can put your dice in, and it will like roll out. It's just a really pleasant game for those who don't really want like, I don't know, a lot of like mechanics and heavy combat and all that. Like, don't get me wrong, I like my scythes and all that. Like Scythe is like the mech one, but I definitely, especially with friends, I just like more cozy stuff. So Wingspan's
that's
definitely
nice.
one.
Yeah.
I really like another one called Parks. Parks is a like a sightseeing based board game where you're going around different national parks in the USA. I like board games which look really nice, that have a really distinct art style, and Parks has like all these beautiful cards which are actually like actually national parks in the USA, and they all look great. And you're just like a little hiker, and you're just like traveling through these different parks.
Oh, that looks lovely.
Yeah, it's so cute and cozy. So I like that. And also, I've just finished with one more. I'm really into the Sherlock Holmes detective ones, which I've told you about, Rebecca, before.
Nice. Yes, I also have played those.
The one. It's like Sherlock Holmes. I can't remember the full name of the first one, but there's like different box sets you can get.
Is it Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective? And then there's all of the the Thames Mystery or whatever it was. And there's like several.
There's Jack the Ripper one. There's Thames Mysteries. There's the Baker Street Gang one. I think the first one, Consulting Detective, is the best one. It's really great. You play as a ragtag group of miscreants who are helping Sherlock and Watson solve crimes. You get a phone book and a map, and it's basically like those very old style text adventures where you decide what to do. You turn to a page in a book, and then it a paragraph describes what happens, and you just solve detective cases. So yeah, I'm definitely more of like the cozy board games, but also, I mean, one of my favorite board games is This War of Mine, which is an adaptation of the PC game, but obviously that is like that's the heaviest I can kind of get with board games, and I only really like that because it's just a really good adaptation of the PC game. Like, it's flawless. Still haven't played Frostpunk yet. We'll
Have you
get
not?
around to it. What? No. The last time I talked about on the podcast was like half a year ago. Still not played it.
I think it might have been more than that. I hate to.
Was
I
it
think it
more
was
than that?
episode 2 of the last podcast.
I think it was a full year ago, Rachel. I hate to
Yeah.
Yeah.
hate to tell you.
Still not played it. But yeah, I've heard Ormello's really good as well, because that has like kind of cute critters, but it's like a bit more serious than like your Everdales. But yeah, love a board game me. I think they're great.
Yeah, I mean,
good.
me too, as probably that conversation made fairly clear already. And my partner and I own a large collection of board games that we don't get to play nearly as often as we'd like, because most board games are either really lengthy or require more than 2 people. But yeah, I really like co-op board games, to be honest. Like, my favorites are things like Horrified and like Betrayal at the House on the Hill. And like the Arkham games as well. I also really like we've been playing a lot of Unmatched lately, which is like sometimes co-op, sometimes versus, but like Unmatched is really fun.
Is that the one where it takes like icons?
Yes,
like action icons.
So the other one that I really like is I really like Sherlock Holmes style board games. I've got a lot of Sherlock Holmes themed ones, surprise, surprise, and some Agatha Christie themed ones as well. We also do a bit of RPGing. Because
Oh dear.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about like I never know how much to talk about this because it sounds like I'm trying to be really name dropping and stuff, but I thought it's probably fine. We're friends.
Do it.
We're friends with one of the presenters from No Rolls Barred, which is a fairly big tabletop gaming channel, and like so it's Dom Allen, who's one of the main sort of GMs on their RPG spin-off channel, Chaotic Neutral. He also does a really cool podcast, which is Apocalypse Players. So he's DM'd Call of Cthulhu for us a few times, which is always good fun. It's a bit weird though, because I like, when you've kind of known someone for years and you're like, you've come to my house and like in exchange for dinner, like DM'd a 3-person Call of Cthulhu game, and now people like enter competitions to get you to come and GM their games and stuff. So it's always quite fun.
Yes,
to have done that. But yeah, because of that like connection, I've played quite a lot of Call of Cthulhu. I would also love to play Vampire the Masquerade, but I have to GM that if I want to play that. And I have all the books, but I don't have the confidence or the group of friends to get together and GM that yet. So
you'd be a great GM at Vampire.
Yeah, you really would.
To GM
so
some
good.
Vampire the Masquerade at some point. I've like got all the source books. I'm sure I've told the story before. So many source books in such a huge box that I broke my toe once.
I did not know that.
On the
What the
Vampire
hell?
the Masquerade source
I don't think you've
books.
told us that story before.
It was so funny. So it's like basically the version 5 source books. They did like a really lovely like box set release. It's huge, and my partner very kindly got it for me for my birthday one year. And I was reading it, so I put it down on the floor, stood up, like cracked my foot off it. Pretty sure I broke my toe, but the thing is, I went on Twitter like just as a joke, and I was like, I just like broke my toe on the Vampire the Masquerade source book. And Jason Carl, like the main guy at VTM, was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I hope you feel better soon."
Oh wow! What the hell? That's wild.
Such a moment. He's like really nice. If you like mention Vampire the Masquerade on Twitter, he's usually in there being like very, very nice in your replies.
Wow.
He's a very nice person. So yeah, I think my relationship with tabletop gaming is I would like it to be a bigger part of my life along with video gaming, but it is less feasible because it's a bit more of a like social gathering activity, which obviously over the last few years has been a bit more difficult. But also I just to bring it back to video games as requested, like I will play any RPG that is a tie-in to a tabletop RPG. Like most of them end up being among my favorite games. Like obviously Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, my like trademark favorite game is a tie-in. Baldur's Gate 3 from last year. I'm also very fond of the Call of Cthulhu RPG, which came out in 2018 to like no fanfare. I thought was pretty good fun. You know, your cyberpunks. I like cyberpunk. I'm probably less enthused about that than the others, but I like it.
I always forget that's based on a tabletop RPG, but yeah.
It makes the least use of its background, I think. Which is why I kind of like, I like it, but don't love it. But anyway, sorry, I banged on for ages. That's me and tabletop.
She loves a spooky board game.
I do love a spooky co-op board game.
Spooky co-op queen.
Yes. Yeah, I don't like being competitive with people. It's one of the reasons that I don't play a lot of multiplayer games.
Yeah, me neither.
Like,
interesting.
Cooperative board games, where is that for me?
Yeah, the ones that I mentioned aren't, like, they're not co-op, but they're not super competitive, like, where you're actively, like, stopping other people or, like, wrecking other people's shit. Like, I hate that. I know,
like right?
Leave me alone.
Let's be kind, gentle, and hold hands.
Yeah, whenever
genuinely, that's my vibe.
Right? Whenever me and Henry do play, like, friend of the podcast, but Henry do play, like, something like Scythe, which is, like, I'm always like, leave me alone. Don't attack me. Stay there.
So one of the few sort of more competitive games that Mick and I play fairly regularly is Ticket to Ride. And I'm always like, we could both have train lines. It's all like, it doesn't have to be this cutthroat business.
But like, is Mick to you? So like, Henry's like, that's the game. I'm coming over there and I'm going to wreck your shit. And I'm like, no, please. I just want to have a good time.
I know.
It's like those two dynamics. Yeah. Leave me alone. Oh, God.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Ticket to Ride is a good one. And they have it on PC as well. And that's a really good adaptation.
Oh, is it?
One on Steam. Yeah.
Is it? I didn't realize
it's pretty
it was
good.
On Steam. Nice.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. Ticket to Ride is good.
I've never played Ticket to Ride. It feels like quite a core text, like along with Catan. It's like Catan and Ticket to Ride are like board game night starter pack, right? Like,
yeah. Again, I'm not super into Catan.
I've played it, but yeah, it's not my favorite. You know,
it's okay.
I think we've got it somewhere. Good. Like honestly, there's just so many board games in my house.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Catan is great. It's not quite like Monopoly and Cards Against Humanity. It's like the rig above. Like if someone was bring out Catan, I wouldn't side eye. Like if someone brought out Monopoly or Cards Against Humanity, I'd be like, I'm not playing that.
Someone did that to me on Saturday. Someone was like, should we play Cards Against Humanity? And I was like, no.
In 2024.
It's 2024.
It was so many very fond memories of playing that like 12 years ago, but you know, it's had its moment. It's fine.
Yeah.
Bit.
Let it die. But yeah, how about you, Liam?
I'm not as well versed as you two. We play like a lot of social board games, things like Fun Employed, where it's sort of like
nice,
you know, acting and a bit of improv kind of stuff.
Oh shit! Okay.
I have been in a D&D campaign for a year. I dabbled in D&D before, but I never took it seriously. I think I was one of those people. I think because I'm quite not shy or nervous, but I'm definitely reserved, and I definitely feel a little bit more uncomfortable around like improv acting things. I have to be in a certain group of people.
Yeah, I get you.
And my thing is I'd always go very silly because I think that's a more comfortable space for me to inhabit. So if we did D&D before, I would always be something very silly. But when we started this current campaign that we started last March, I was like, actually, I'm going to be something serious. So I'm playing what are the demons called in D&D? I've forgotten the name already.
Tiefling.
Tiefling, yes. Yeah. I'm a tiefling rogue, and I'm playing it very straight. I'm like just a very like dry professional rogue. But friend of the podcast, Yolly, is a sloth. Our friend Beck, they are a otter, and our friend Steve is a 900-year-old dwarf called Nana Reggie, who's a druid. So it's
incredible.
quite
So
fun
good.
because they're very silly and I'm the straight guy. And I sort of feel like
Mhm.
that leads to like quite a fun dynamic. And I like D&D. It took me a while to get into it. Again, I think that reservedness, but now we've been playing it for a year. I find it very fun. And I think I mentioned this in the podcast as well. I've gotten really into Magic the Gathering over the last few months.
Oh God!
I now have. I was
saga of Magic the Gathering.
sleeving one of my decks yesterday, putting them in little protective sleeves. My dog meat Fallout set. I'm looking at it now. It's over there. Arrived on Friday. And just me and my mate Liam at work. We just play Magic at lunchtime every so often.
Oh my God!
Oh.
What color you
it's good
play?
fun.
What color do you play?
So my dino deck is red, white, I think.
Ooh.
And I don't know what color the Fallout one is. I'm still very, very fresh. I'm still like, every time we play, I'm like, what's trample? What does that mean? Can we Google that?
I trample.
But it's,
Yes.
yeah, so I'd like to play more board games. We played a lot of Mysterium as a group as well.
Mysterium's good. I like Mysterium a lot.
Mysterium's
Again,
very,
it's
very
like
fun.
very
Yeah.
quite co-op-y, quite spooky.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a great co-op game.
And it's so funny when you put on like the soundtrack that comes with it, with all the stock
Yes.
music, sound effects, and your friend who's the ghost who's trying to get you to guess what they're trying to communicate with you, just like giving you silent daggers from behind the thing. And you're like, oh, this card they've handed me clearly means this. And they're like just staring at you.
Oh
So,
my God.
A couple
like
of years
Mysterium.
ago, we actually bought like a top-down camera so that we could play Mysterium online with like several groups of friends.
Wow,
in different
that's
parts of
fun.
the country. It was just it just really brought it back when you were like saying like the ghost getting very like, because we were playing Mick was playing, friend of the podcast, Mick was playing as the ghost, and there was me, like his best friend from school and his wife and like some other friends of ours, and I was like the only one who I think got the right answer, and Mick was like, why did the rest of the team not listen to my partner who knows me like the best of everyone?
That's really funny.
It was quite funny. We were all just like, oh yeah, I really let people. I was there talking to like his best friend from primary school, like, yeah, you probably know him as well as I do. And Mick's there like, no. Like, I think for my current frame of reference, you've probably got the better idea, Rebecca.
Oh, that
Mysterium
is
is
so
so fun.
It was really
I
good fun
like-
though. We had like such a great evening playing that.
I think if anyone wants to like a co-op Cluedo style game that's much more involved and more fun than Cluedo,
Oh, yeah.
you should check out Mysterium.
To be fair, that
Very, very
whole
good game.
that whole genre where you've got like the very beautiful art cards. There are several games I think
Yeah.
from the same publisher that use the same like artist to do the. I love stuff where it's
really?
like the picking. I can't remember the names of any of the others, frustratingly, but when you're like picking details out of the cards and like trying to communicate ideas through them in that very like dreamlike way, it's always really good fun.
Like Dixit.
Dixit is one of the other ones, and then
Yeah.
there's I wish I could remember the rest of them, but my brain is just blank.
Oh yeah, Dixit's by the same publisher. You're right.
Yeah, I think it's like the same artist, or at least the same group of artists.
Yeah, they look similar. Yeah, those games are maybe my favorite board games at the moment. I really
They
like
are
them.
really nice. I also love a trivia
Mhm.
game. Any sort of like trivia guessing game, I'm always really into as well.
Yeah, I don't mind a little trivia game on Christmas Eve. That's always quite a nice.
Oh, see, I
little
can't
tradition.
do trivia.
Can you
I'm
not?
like, I'm such a dumb bitch.
I absolutely destroyed
Me too.
my group of colleagues the other day because they were talking about like what if we did like a quiz format on our work videos. We were just like throwing that idea out, and I was like, oh man, like what was it I said? Oh, it was like, yeah, like so many former gifted children turned moderate fuck up of an adult, I'm very into quizzes, and they were just all like too real, Rebecca, too real, and we were just like, oh god, it's like it's the hit of approval I used to get from doing well in school that I just don't get anymore unless I go on like the Thursday news quiz or whatever and just like nail it.
I totally
so good.
Stop attacking me.
Oh, I know.
See,
sorry,
I'm like the
apparently
opposite. I'm like, fuck this shit. I don't care if I don't know you.
I said it
what the
to be
fuck
funny,
the-
and
what
then
is?
it like really upset a bunch of people about.
Yeah.
At least it's it's about me.
I
as
don't
much
want
as
to
anyone.
learn from my board game. Ew.
Oh yeah, but not like serious true. Although I did have like ridiculous fun a couple of years ago playing a really old, I think like early 80s copy of Trivial Pursuit that my parents had. Just because it's like, that's their era, that's their frame of reference. And I'm there like, I do not know about what the, tennis tournament 9 years before I was born. Like,
I hate it so much.
My
dad had a copy of Trivial Pursuit from the 70s when I was a kid. And he'd be like, oh, should you play Trivial Pursuit? I'm like, no, Dad, half of the countries aren't even called that anymore.
Usually I would go for something a bit more lighthearted, like, like a big potato trivia game or something like that, rather than something very serious like Trivial Pursuit. But it was good. It was really good because I think we just needed something. We decided to stay up till midnight on New Year's, and we just needed something that would keep us awake for a few hours, and we played a mammoth game of Trivial Pursuit. Anyway.
Well, very sophisticated. We played Jackbox, and we were all very drunk.
Drunk Jackbox.
Jackbox.
Actually, I really do like Jackbox.
I really like Jackbox, and the Magic Epic press account, which I love that I still have, even though I'm not a games journalist anymore. They add the Jackbox games onto it every year. So
do they? Ooh.
Just getting a nice little steady supply of Jackbox games. Every time I think about Jackbox, I think about that hard drive headline that said, Jackbox hard mode bans the word cum. I think about that all the time.
Oh dear.
We got a lot out of that question. That was a really good question. Thank you, Jam Warrior. That was brilliant.
Thanks, Jam.
That was good fun.
Rebecca, I think it's your turn to pick one.
Yes, I think I'm going to go with a question from Marcus. Thank you, Marcus, for your. I think this one was an email. It's a lovely email. Very, very nice things. Very nice things were said. Sorry, I don't know why. It's like
I see. An
attempt
I'm with you
to talk like proxy to another human being who I'm genuinely like. Thank you so much, Marcus, for your lovely email. But I sound like I don't talk to strangers well, so I sound like I'm talking like a robot. Anyway, it's all cool.
This is the one that called us. It said Marcus began it with "Dear Indieventurers" and then said, "Or are we, the fans, the Indieventurers?" I guess that's up to you. And actually, I like the name Indieventurers.
I know, right? I'm already kind
too.
of like I was already invested in that question. But I think the question that I would from that email that I wanted to answer was like, which game has the biggest disparity between how much you actually like it and how much you feel like you should like it? I thought it was such a good question.
It's a really good question.
Which I picked because I obviously have an answer I can embarrass myself with, clearly. You
go, because I struggled with this one.
Yeah. I think we all know that I've played a lot of Honey Pop. And
yes.
like
I sort of knew this was going to be your answer, actually.
the hours on my Steam account don't lie. I really like at least the mainline Honey Pop games. I don't really like the spin-off game, but I do like the mainline games a lot. And like I'm not ashamed to like them, but the fact that they're easily in my like top 5, top 10 games on Steam, and like it's a bit borderline, isn't it, Honey Pop, in a lot of ways. It's like it sort of does a lot to be inclusive, but at the same time it's still got that very like aspect to it being like quite a default like male gaze kind of like NSFW game.
What do you actually do in Honey Pop?
It's a match 3 tile game. So you date anime women and impress them by matching 3 at great length, and it's very compelling, both as a match 3 puzzle game and a dating sim.
I love that you love Honey Pop.
Like there's no point lying about it. I really do enjoy that series, but there are moments where the game will do something like, oh yeah, this is also a bit of like, an edgy boy dating sim at times, and even though it is out there being like, doing a good crack at being like queer inclusive and inclusive to like women who want to play it, and I don't think it's like terrible in that regard. Just sometimes it'll say something you're like, oh yeah oh yeah this oops it's like it very much requires like a pretty good sense of humor about a lot of stuff, and generally I'm happy to go along with it, but at the same time it is one of those where you're like, I can't really talk about the games that I've played a lot of without talking about this, and like you have to couch it in a lot of context for people not to think that you're a complete weirdo. So there you go.
But I think what I've always liked about when you've spoken about this and Max Gentleman Sexy Business,
yes, that's the one.
Yeah,
Ooh,
is that I always feel like you talk about them so eloquently and really do find the value and worth within them. I think it is such a misrepresented part of the industry that a lot of mainstream journalists don't talk about. So I've always liked that you've chatted about things like Honey Pop and that.
Thank you. I mean, I think that, they are two good examles in a genre that is very saturated with very, very, enjoy what you enjoy, but there's a lot that's like, extreme, and, it is hard to make an NSFW game that's like very, I think very inclusive and like has a lot of value and is very entertaining. I think both of those. I think particularly Max Gentleman has done that. Like, I'm actually not ashamed to say that I really like Max Gentleman. I think that that's a good series. It's, it is trying much harder, I think, than Honey Pop in the end to actually practice what
that's
it preaches.
the vibe I get.
Yeah, I get that vibe as well.
Yeah. Whereas, like I say, Honey Pop's just that. It's just got that little bit of like, as I say, I can only describe it as which especially when you see the spin-off, which is a lot more like and I don't really like the spin-off, and that's kind of that vibe. But yeah, that would definitely be
that's a really
mine.
good answer.
Yeah.
Sure.
I love listening to you talk about it. I think it's so interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah, me too. I think my answers for this were House Flipper 2. I feel like
Oh, yeah?
I really, really love House Flipper 2, but I sort of feel like maybe I shouldn't like it as much as I do. I don't know, because it feels like a lot of people don't have the same opinion as me, and I just can't see other people's criticisms. Like, they released a little spring update last week, and I played like another 2 hours of it. I was like, oh yeah, I'll go back in for another cheeky little house flip. I'm excited for that to keep going. I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
I do feel like House Flipper 2, though, because everyone was die-hard for House Flipper 1, you get those kind of people who are like, this paintbrush is absolutely wrong.
It is a lot of that.
It doesn't feel good and all this stuff. So
yeah.
It attracts those kind of people.
I see what you mean.
I think Vampire Survivors is a good answer to this, because I think I no-lifed that, and I think it did take over a very large portion of my year when I was at RPS. And I sort of feel like there's liking it, and then there's like, maybe you should uninstall that game, buddy. Maybe it's a bit too much for you.
Oh, really?
I mean, yeah. Also, the first part of this question was about what games are you most embarrassed to love, or what game would you be most embarrassed to tell your peers that you love?
I should probably say, there's more to the question than I read out. I kind of like just snipped out what I felt was the core of the question, but there are other aspects to it that we can go into.
I only wanted to answer that one bit because my answer to that is Sonic Frontiers, not an indie, but I do think it's a game I'm embarrassed. Also, a game I'm really embarrassed to tell my peers I love is I really, really liked Catherine on the PS3, the Atlas.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it's good, and I think it has I know it has a lot of quite deeply problematic representations in it. But at the time I was like, this is doing something quite interesting and different. And me and my housemate just got like really into it, and just every night we're like, should we play a bit of Catherine? For
to be fair, it's like
hours. Do a couple of block puzzles.
For a certain kind of like genre, it is a very core text, I still think. So
you think?
I think so. I think if you're like, I don't know, if you're like me and you're getting into your like weird anime kind of dating like Sims, if you like this sort of like persona type thing as well, I think Catherine was like a sort of a precursor and like a core text to that kind of area of fandom, which I am kind of on the edge of. And like Catherine's definitely on my to play list, even though I'm aware that there's a lot that, is a little again, a little
yeah, I agree. I wasn't really into Catherine, but I did like Catherine when I was younger because it was edgy and wow, a giant butt is like chasing you. Also, the puzzles are really good. Edge. It's like,
oh yeah, Edge. I forgot about
Edge. Yeah, the puzzles are really fun.
The music is great as well.
The music is so good, but it was like one of those edgy games that I was like, wow, this is so interesting. A giant fetus baby's chasing someone. It's just like, and then you get older and you're like,
yeah.
If you know the industry, I feel like without any knowledge of Catherine, you could pin it down almost to the year it was released in, just because it's so of its era.
100%. Yes,
absolutely.
It is so of its time. It's like it. Oh god, yeah. The fact that came out and everyone was like, "This is very progressive," and many many mature gamers. This is not one for the boys, let me tell you. It's very mature. And you look back now, you're like, oh my fucking God, are you fucking kidding me? Like, well, one of the Catherines is wearing lingerie all the time, and it's so mature. I don't know. Why am I saying I love this game? Do I love this game? Maybe I don't.
But it's like that love-hate thing, right? It's the same with Heavy Rain. Like, I fucking hate Heavy Rain, and I fucking love Heavy Rain.
It's the same, exactly the same. Honestly, that whole Quantic Dream trilogy of like Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and Detroit Become Human. It's like, I understand all the reasons why it's objectively bad, but still, it is such a huge part of my life that I can't hate it. You know?
Yeah,
it's
totally.
You know
agree.
what? I think that you cannot be in this industry without having to defend. To decide which slightly questionable things you're going to occasionally defend, to be fair. Like, there's just so much of it.
The penance. You have to beg for forgiveness of some things that you used to like. Like, Lord, forgive me, I bought Lollipop Chainsaw at launch. Like...
but again, like, a classic, like, it's got its
Lollipop
place in the
Chainsaw
canon.
is like...
Yeah,
it's come back round, and now she's just like an absolute icon. So
yeah,
it's
it has
that
come
as
round.
well.
That was a trendsetter.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't really have an answer to this one. I don't know. I like the games I like. I mean, maybe like Heavy Rain and all that, like other stuff. I used to get really embarrassed when I was first a journalist that I hadn't played a lot of AAA games, and now I couldn't give less of a fuck. Like, I don't care anymore.
Right?
But
how are you meant to find the time to play it all?
Right? And also, I don't like half of it. I'm sorry. I'm never going to play Skyrim, and I fucking hate it. Sorry about it. Also, I don't care. It's crusty.
Marcus's bonus question.
You know what I mean?
Is, which game are you most embarrassed that you don't like? Which is, I think we're already kind of going into that all of this.
Well, the thing is, my anger from what I just said, it doesn't really come from like, Skyrim is fine, but it was the idea that I was in an environment in which it was lauded over as like the fucking game.
Yes.
Red Dead was like the game for storytelling. Arthur Morgan, icon, or whatever. Like, do you know what I mean? Red Dead 2 as well.
I definitely get
so
you.
I'm just coming from that perspective. But yeah, again, which game are you most embarrassed that you do not like? I don't have an answer for that either because I said what I said. That attitude, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, to be fair, like, not to get too heavy, but a lot of kind of getting your confidence in this profession is like getting to the point where you can be like, I haven't played this, or I didn't really enjoy this.
Yeah.
And not being embarrassed about it is just like, I don't know. When you're like just first a games journalist and you're like, I've played every single game ever, and they're all the ones you think are great. And then you're just like, nah, I can't.
Yeah.
And now I'm just sat here like, Elden Ring, couldn't get into it. Like,
like, less of a fuck. I tell you what, though, I do get pressed when people bring up The Last of Us. I do get pressed. Yeah. I don't know why. I love The Last of Us 2 so much that, like, I can take it when people criticize it, but I'm just like, but like, I do get a bit pressed about that.
That's fair.
Because people love to shit on it, and I'm just like,
it's
like, not embarrassed, but I'll be a bit like,
yeah.
What did you say?
I think it's overhated.
Say it again.
It's overhated, and we all kind of like know that there's a lot of shit going on with why it's overhated. Like, I'm not a big Naughty Dog fan, to be fair, but like, I'm there like, I don't see why this is any different to their other games, other than that, like, they made narrative choices that a lot of very intense people didn't like.
The discourse around that game was soured by the usual bad actors.
Exactly.
And I think it got in the way of actual criticism about that game that I will not say because I don't want to fall out with my friend Rachel.
Fair enough.
This is an indie podcast. We'll just
if this was
not
anything
debate.
but
whole episode of The Last of Us 2. Tell you what though, Last of Us 1, I'm not defending that shit. Like, I didn't, whatever. But you needed it to get to. You know what? We don't
Wait,
need
what?
to.
You prefer that? I'm not having this conversation.
2 is way better than 1. 1 is like garbo compared to 2. 2 is like undeniably.
I respect you, friend, and I wish you all the best.
Hey, I wish you all the best.
Wow.
Well, I wish you all the best.
Aggressive. It's kind of really intriguing to be here with like no particular horse in this race. Just be like, yeah.
Oh, so good.
The most embarrassed that I do not like, I just want to sort of just echo what you've just been saying. I'm not really embarrassed about not liking anything because I do agree. I think when you become a games journalist, the advice you're always given is you should play as much as possible and you should have as wide a gaming diet as you can. And actually, I think when you get in the industry, you realize that the people who excel the most are people who have quite narrow focuses and it can speak confidently about specific things.
Yes.
Like, like Rebecca, like you are like the Sims person, right? Like I feel like you could be you're an authoritative voice on that series. And Rachel, I think you're the same about like indie games. And I think that gives you both a really unique edge. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for one thing. That's very kind of you to say. I think it is true though. Like the pull to be an authority versus the pull to be an authority on everything is like, I don't want to get too heavy into this, but a lot of the advice that you're given as an entertainment journalist, or as a journalist generally, and as a games journalist, is like, it's trying to put it into practice would be massively unhealthy. And you have to find the way to not ruin your life for the sake of monetizing your hobby in this way.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Sorry, this is going to get really heavy, but you know what? We're all friends here and we have lovely listeners. So I'm sure that this isn't a problem to kind of speak to the truth of this industry sometimes. But I
don't think, I think they'll get
it.
Marcus,
those are some good questions.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Trio of good.
Can I just read out how that email ended? Because it made me laugh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Marcus said, P.S. I remember Leah mentioning a single Danish listener a few episodes ago. I don't know exactly how your metrics work, but I am a Danish person living in Germany, so it's likely that you have at least two. That just made me laugh.
That's very heartwarming. Yeah, thanks so much for your email, Marcus. It's been really nice to read it.
Yeah, it was lovely. Thank you so much, Marcus.
Right. I'm going to pick Ben's question. And they asked, here's a question for the upcoming Mailbag episode. Sonic, Mario, The Last of Us, triggered, and even Borderlands. There have been plenty of AAA game franchises that get the Hollywood treatment in recent years. So what indie series would you like to see adapted to the big screen or teddy screen? And as a bonus question, who are you casting in the starring role? This is a good question. This is a great question.
Such a good question.
I had a few. I think for me, I've always preferred television adaptations instead of film, just because I don't know, those are the ones I've gotten along with the most. So a lot of the games that I've chosen are already kind of like episodic in that nature, whether it be like exploring different characters or just like chapters. They broke it up into chapters. So my first one was Spiritfarer, which is like a beast of an indie game. Yeah, 20-hour indie game where you play as a ferryman who is guiding souls in between the living and the dead, this limbo land. They stay on your boat until they are ready. And each of these spirits has a story. So it's like, each episode could have like focus on different characters and like explore what it means to be like in this state of like limbo and what they miss about life and, you know, what's this game saying about death. And so I thought that would make a really good, tight Netflix 8 episode, maybe 12, you know, it might be enough characters. I think 8 would be a good sweet spot for like just, an 8 episode Spiritfarer series. I don't know who I'd cast in it. It could even be animated because the animation in Spiritfarer is so nice and those characters are so well designed that like an animated
show would be so good for that. I agree.
Yeah, so that was definitely my number one.
Who would voice the main character? That's a really good question.
So that's the thing. She doesn't. Are they voiced in the game?
I don't think she is.
No, I don't think any of them are because she doesn't have. I'm trying to remember. No, they have like noises they make, but they're not voiced. So I don't know who would voice her. What's her name? She's quite young as well, so it'd have to be someone, maybe a no-name, someone who's just up and coming, someone on the Netflix revolving door of actors that they use. Don't know. Oh my god, that YouTube video was incredibly loud in my eardrums. Wow. Oh god, Stella the Ferry Master, yeah. No idea, but I feel like for Christopher Walken would have to do a voice. He'd probably do the voice of like
Christopher Walken?
Yeah, Christopher Walken has to do a voice. I feel like he could do one of the older characters. I need to remember.
Can I attempt a Christopher Walken?
Oh,
shall we do this? Shall we do this?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if I can
you are welcome to.
The spirit, the afterlife. Bury me.
Perfect. That was good. No. That's all I need.
It's bad. Well, I tried. I'm glad you're all here to witness that.
terrible.
Okay.
Actually, we don't need Christopher Walken. We just have you voice.
Yes.
Me?
You voice one of the characters.
I voice
Absolutely.
all the characters.
Yeah.
All of them. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a
okay
man
for
of
it.
3 voices. Christopher Walken, not one of them.
But so many microphones.
So many microphones.
So yeah, Spiritfarer. Some others really quickly would be Coffee Talk. Coffee Talk is the
Coffee
yeah.
Talk's a
the
good
visual
shout.
novel where you play as a barista in a cafe, and then different people come in for different coffees. I just think that'd be really cute. Super cheap to make. Just one building, just different characters coming in. Any sort of like game where you serve drinks, it could just be like a really nice,
Yeah.
good drama. Sea Salt Chronicles, which I mentioned last year, which is about a group of ragtag explorers. They go from island to island. Each episode could be focused on like one particular island in that island's community. I think that'd be really
Such a
cute.
good idea.
So yeah, those 3, I'd love that. Those they could all work as animations.
Yeah.
They'd
Cute
all
little-
be great animations.
Cute little Netflix animated series.
Yeah.
Yes.
So those 3 are my picks.
I was absolutely devastated to see that developer shut down the other
Oh
day.
god, that was so
I
sad.
know.
Yeah. They deserve better than that.
Hey.
That was such a
Die
shame.
Gut Fabrik.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yes,
Yeah,
that was
I just
a
wanna-
particularly brutal day, wasn't it? That was when it was like every 6 hours there was another studio shutting
Yeah,
down,
that
cutting
was
staff.
awful.
It was a rotten day.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, Die Gut Fabrik. Okay, thank God I got that right. Yeah, hopefully they'll all land on their feet.
I
Oh,
hope so.
because Muta Zion as well was another game, their previous game I loved as well.
Such
Ugh.
interesting things, and they just never
Right?
got a fair crack at it, did they? It's such a shame. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring the tone down. Just thought it was
it's all right. It's
Worth
a heady
lamenting.
mix of like really fun questions and answers, and then bitching about the industry in quite a serious way. I think that's just how. I think that's maybe the tone of this podcast generally going forward. Is probably
Oh, yeah, I think so.
yeah.
Go to Netflix, pitch a TV series.
Yes.
Yeah.
Salty Chronicles is literally like the chapters are like structured as a TV show. Like it begins with an opening to like a TV show, and then
Does it?
ends with credits. Yeah, every episode, every
Oh,
chapter.
I need to play that.
So it's supposed to be kind of like this whimsical adventure.
Do you have any others?
Nope, those are my 3.
Rebecca, do you have any?
So I was thinking about this one, and like my feelings about direct adaptation of video games kind of go back and forth. And at the moment, I'm in a kind of like, I don't think direct adaptation is necessarily the thing that I'm most into. Like there are a lot of movies that I think pair really well with particular video games, and I kind of tend to try and seek out stuff that's like on theme rather than being like, oh, wouldn't it be amazing if they made this into a film? But I was thinking a lot as well about like indie horror, because there are a lot of indie horror games that I enjoy once, but I'm like, I wouldn't want to replay them, but I would kind of watch them streamed again. And I do watch them, like I watch streams of them kind of like a movie, and I was like, what like one and done indie horror would make a really good movie adaptation?
Oh yeah.
And the one that I'm not sure if we're going to count this as indie, so I've come up with 2, one of which is definitely indie and one of which is like a little more borderline. Because there's Observer, which is the game that Bloober Team did between Layers of Fear and Layers of Fear 2, which is a very cool like cyberpunk detective game.
Yes.
Which a lot of people really love playing, but the story was amazing, but I very much always had the sense of like you're mainly observing. Ironically, it feels more like you're out. You know, you're kind of like more so than Layers of Fear. I thought it felt very much like you're kind of engaging with the story, and the mechanics didn't grip me as much, and I would just like watch it again rather than play it again. And I found out actually when I looked into it, that has been optioned for a film, as has my other pick, which is The Mortuary Assistant, the Dread XP, which actually, to be fair,
yeah.
The Mortuary Assistant does have a lot of replayability, so that's kind of like less of a thing. But then I was thinking about it, I was like, but there's already, if you want to watch a film of The Mortuary Assistant, there's already like The Autopsy of Jane Doe, which is a very similar thing, and another example that I like, which is the Simulacra series and Cam on Netflix feel like they belong in the same universe.
Oh yeah.
And there's, you know,
interesting.
but yeah, generally there's a lot of indie horror that I don't want to be like, I'm not going to name names because it feels rude, but there is a lot of indie horror that is designed very like interesting. Like the level design is good, the narrative is like pretty fun, but it just doesn't really grip me as a game, if that makes sense. And like a lot of these, you know, I would love to see those. Although I did actually, while we're on the subject, I haven't played this yet, but I watched it stream today, which is Reveal, which is a a really new
Ooh.
indie horror game that came out last week. And it's a really interesting one because it sells itself on a premise that is such a generic indie horror game premise that even though it's only about 3 hours long, I think that a lot of people would probably switch off before they realized what the game was actually about. And even though I think that it is important that it's a game, I was like, almost, while I was watching it, I was like, if this was a film, people would probably engage with it more, ironically, because the thing is, you need to keep playing a game, you need to switch a film off, if that makes sense. And so I'm like, that was one that I probably would like to see. I think if they did an adaptation of that, it would be, and maybe it's just recency bias because I literally watched it today, streamed, but it's also like, I was watching it like, this is, you know, it's good that this is a game. I like that it's a game, but also I think that this could work really well as a film because it's just like got a little bit of, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's got a little bit of something hasty to just make it stand out in that way. But yeah, generally, you know me, I like horror films, I like horror games. I'm like, why not just bring the two together a bit more generally, you know?
They're very good answers.
What about you, Liam?
So I thought, interestingly, when you were talking about like you don't really like direct adaptations, I agree. I prefer it when they change things slightly or offer like an alternative storyline. I think a Night in the Woods animated series would be really good, like 6 episodes.
Yeah.
And I think if they switched up the ending, I think they could do some interesting things with it. And maybe this is again recency bias because we watched the Scott Pilgrim anime over Christmas. I think Mary Elizabeth Winstead would be a really good May. I think she'd be like really good at that character's voice. I can't explain it. Like, I think we watched a film with her a few years ago where she played a stand-up comic, and she had like an edge to her that I just think would like that clearly she can portray. That would like maybe felt very May-like. I can't describe it. It was good. What was that movie
Who did
called?
she voice in Scott Pilgrim?
She was Ramona in Scott Pilgrim.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, and the only that would be animated, obviously, and the only other one I could think of, again, animated, would be El Paso Elsewhere, which I think I almost wanted to see more of the story in that game, and I feel like you could really go more into the central relationship with what was his name? The main character in Drac.
It was something like, oh right, yeah.
What was he called?
It was something like John or James or something like really action hero.
James.
It might be
or something.
It was like it was James. Oh shit! It's a good name. It's a good name.
But again, I think they could just be voiced by the actors that they're voiced by in the game. I think that'd be really good.
James Savage.
James Savage. That was it. I was close with James Damage, I guess.
Yeah.
It's actually just I've just come up with an alternate answer. Is it really bad if I just go into a different answer completely? Because I just finished playing Outer Wilds, which I had.
Oh, okay.
You finished it.
I have fairly mixed feelings about. I liked the story, but I didn't kind of like
the ship.
I didn't. It's not just the ship. I kind of didn't always like love the game, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
I think that I was really, really into was the story of the Nomai. And all the way through, I was like, maybe the problem I'm having with this is that I want to see a different story in this world. And like, if they made like a TV series that was the story of the Nomai, I'd be well into that because I thought those characters were really charming and that, you know, that sci-fi society was really cool. Who would you cast in that? Because they're literally goat people, so I assume it would have to be some sort of animation. Like,
yeah, or puppets like Dark Crystal.
Oh my goodness! Yes,
that would be really
there.
Good,
it is.
Actually.
Jim Henson, get him on the phone. Seriously, I've been fawning after Dark Crystal Jim Henson recently because oh my god, I really want to go see Spirited Away in London, the puppet one.
Oh wow!
They did Totoro, now they're doing Spirited Away. So I've been like mad into puppets and thinking about puppets recently. So yeah, that would be such a
that would
good
be
puppet.
Really that would fit really well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
that'd be brilliant.
That's definitely me. Like the story of the Nomai, I would be well into anything that kind of looked at Outer Wilds from that specific viewpoint.
Yes.
So,
Outer Wilds universe is one that needs exploring. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I just like them so much.
Love it.
Just all those sweet old nerdy goat people.
Yes.
Sweet old nerdy goat people.
Yes. Oh dear.
Right. My turn to pick one.
Yes, I believe so.
Yes.
So I will absolutely go for this one. Hi, guys. I would love to know if you had to become part of the world and lore of one video game, what would it be? Would love to hear a day in the life of whatever game you choose. That's from friend of the podcast, Yolly. Oh, she sounds nice.
Yolly. Oh,
Thanks, Yolly.
thank you,
Oh.
Yolly.
Hi, Yolly. I'm so excited.
Hey, Yolly.
I love that she did
I think
email
she's
that
quite
in.
far behind. She'll hear this in November this year. I love that she emailed it in as well. I like that she asked me. I was sat next to her and she was like, "What's the email address for your podcast?" I was
Aw.
like, contact@indieventurepodcast.co.uk. She went, "Oh, okay." And then my phone went ding, and I had an email from her.
That's so sweet.
Love that.
So, who would like to go first on this one?
Ooh, I can go.
Yeah.
So immediately I just think of cozy, nice worlds, which I can just
Yeah,
relax in. And so obviously one of the farming sims had to be a farming sim for me. So I'm thinking Slime Rancher. I think
Good.
Slime Rancher would be so nice and cozy. Day of the life, you just get up, you just look after cute slimes, you just go on cute adventures, and like, I don't know, it's just such a pretty world, and it's almost like a vacation, and the slimes are just so cute. I just, anything with like cute critters where I could just relax and farm and pick up their poo and sell their poo and just live out a happy life. The other one I was thinking of is the MMO-like Meadow by Might and Delight, where you play as
Meadow?
like, so they did the Shelter games where you play as like a badger.
Oh,
and then,
yeah.
So
That's
they
actually
did
really
it-
funny that you'd bring that up on a question that Yolly asked, because when we very
Oh?
first got together, the first game we ever played was the very first Shelter.
Oh,
Oh my god, how are you not
Yeah.
scarred for life?
That's the only reason. That's why we're together. It forged us in
Oh
trauma.
my god, your parents of these like badger cubs. I'll always remember my first playthrough of Shelter. God, I'll never forget it. That moment where that eagle swiped one of my cubs was literally the worst fucking thing. It's like, it actually, it was awful. Oh my god, and the current, like when you have to cross a
when it
river
sweeps
as
them
well.
away. Awful.
I love those games, but cute animal games, they are not. They are like, nature is shit sims and it will fuck you up. But Meadow is their alternative to the Shelter series, where it's basically like an online server where you choose as an animal to play as, and then you just non-verbally like have cute animal fun with like a bunch of other people. You just run around and you can forage and solve puzzles and stuff. And it just is it's a very gentle MMO like. It's not like as in depth as an MMO, but like it's just really sweet. And I just think that would be fun. And all the animals, even though they're like predators of each other, you can't like attack each other.
That's
so it's
nice.
very sweet.
Aw.
And I remember when it first came out, spending many hours in it. I don't really play MMOs a lot. I don't really play online games at all. But I got really into Meadow when it first came out, and I just remember me being a baby badger and having other baby badgers, and we were like climbing this mountain. And you can only communicate through like the way you move and like symbols, very much like Journey.
I was about to say Journey.
So it was just
yeah.
really nice. It was so lovely. So I would like to live in that world, that patchwork world.
That
That's
is
very
nice.
pretty.
incredibly
That's a really
sweet.
nice
So-
answer.
Yeah.
I'll pick one of those too. I just want a nice time. I just want a nice relaxing time.
Yeah, why not? Seriously.
I don't want to be challenged in any way. How
So
about
true.
you guys?
Stardew, obviously, but
Yeah.
only because I have lived that life for many months. Take me back. I miss it. Obviously, I would replace Haley with my actual wife if she's allowed to join me. Weirdly, I can't explain this, right? But I was trying to think, what would a non-cozy game be that I would like to inhabit, like in a really like
Ooh.
daydreamy kind of way. And I sort of would quite like to be one of the crows from Death's Door,
Ooh.
That's
sort of just
interesting.
inhabiting this like ancient rotting world as like an immortal creature of the afterlife. I think might be quite like a fun hang.
That's
Like-
so interesting because it's like you're literally stuck there, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not the worst place to be stuck.
No,
it's
it's
cool.
kind of like I really like the
crows
vibe of that
are
world.
chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one. And
God,
then there's
I love Grandma from that game. She is such an icon. Is she
So
from?
good.
She's literally. I remember like Grandma in the game is basically this just like one of the bosses who's just like this giant, very Ghibli-esque granny
Very
with this
Ghibli.
like massive head who like says, she calls you like a little shit. And she's like, what are you doing? And then she proceeds to, Grandma Potts.
Grandma Potts. Yep, Granny
Yeah,
Potts.
she just
that's
chucks
right.
pots at you. And yeah, she's an absolute icon.
She was your Discord avatar for like the entire time we were recording Redacted Podcast. So her
Yes.
face now really reminds me of recording that podcast.
You know, I'd be in that universe as Granny Potts, as Grandma Potts.
Nice.
God, does that mean I have to kill you?
Oh no.
I don't like that.
The cracks are really starting to show in this episode, aren't they?
It's because I didn't like Last of Us 2.
Funny that.
Goodness. Oh dear.
Oh no.
But you know, like if you want to live as a villain, like villains are fun. I think, yeah, Grandma Potts would be an iconic.
That
to
would be
live
a
as
good villain. I like that.
There's also that game is so charming. Who's the pot knight who has soup inside him?
Yeah,
And he runs
he's great.
around and he's just is it soup like pot man or pot
Must
boy?
be. They all have names like that, don't they?
Yeah, and he has like a delicious soup in him, and it spills out when he runs around. It's like Soup Night. I think his
I
name
think
is Soup
it's
Night.
soup. Is it pot? Is it not Pot Night?
Pot Night. Pot. I need to know. Pot Night.
Am I right in thinking that like if he eats the soup, he dies?
Oh, it's his life force.
It's
yeah,
his life force.
it is
Oh,
his life
damn.
force or something like that. Yeah.
The characters in that
Hold
game are so
on.
imaginative.
I'm furiously
I love-
Googling.
The character that's a dead sailor with an octopus controlling him. So it's like the
Oh,
rotting corpse of a
yeah.
sailor, and like the octopus
Oh.
is like, "Hello, I'm a human man."
That game is so fun. I
I
can't
love
find
Death
it.
Store. It's
I
one of
try-
my all-time favorites.
Pothead? Is it just Pothead?
Maybe it's
Can
just
it-
Pothead.
Can it really be
Maybe it's just
Pothead?
Pothead.
But yeah, really, Pothead. Good point.
Right?
actually.
That's what I was thinking. Like, it would not.
Maybe it is.
Maybe that's, I don't know. Maybe that's the joke.
It is
I feel-
Pothead.
What?
It is Pothead.
It is,
Oh my
it is
goodness.
Pothead.
Oh my goodness.
He's cursed by the Witch of Urn's grandma.
Oh, the Witch
He's
of
got-
Urns.
Yeah, she has like a whole title. Do you remember that bit? It's like Grandma,
Oh,
Witch
yes.
of Urn's, Grandma Potts. Like she has like three to four lines of like titles that she has. She is she's fun.
You know what? I'm overdue a Death Store replay. I should replay.
Right,
this game.
you're convincing me as well.
What about you, Rebecca? What would your answer be?
Oh, well, I mean, like, it's a difficult one, right? Because I am on record in multiple areas of my life saying that if I could have my consciousness uploaded to my Animal Crossing New Horizons island, I would, without hesitation, make that my
Yeah.
reality for the rest of time. But this is an indie podcast, and I, in the spirit of keeping it about indie games, I had to think about it. I think I'm going to say one of my documented favorite indie games of all time, Firewatch, because I often daydream about being in that cabin and just waking up like with the sun through all the windows and just like having your just like chill fire watching day. You know, it's like obviously it is an escapist fantasy within the context of the game. It's an escapist fantasy. But at the same time, it's like the idea of doing something like that just for like 6 weeks or whatever he does it for is really compelling. Like the idea of just doing something like that's quite peaceful and quite contemplative and solitary and just like having a hard reset on a lot of areas of your life. And I love the woods. I love going for a walk in the woods and being like in the middle of nowhere like that as well. So that really appeals to me. Also, because Yoli did quite interestingly specify the world and lore of one video game.
Yes.
And Firewatch is, I believe this is actually official canon of Firewatch. It is in universe with the BioShock series. So if you wanted something to do with the rest of your life, you could come find Rapture.
What?
Is it? What?
What?
That's
What are you on
wild.
about? What?
I wrote a blog on it years ago before I was like employed in the industry. But there is a series of Easter eggs through a series of games with like shared developers, which does mean that technically Firewatch and BioShock are in universe together, which I think is just so fun.
That is fun.
I try and remember the sequence of events that leads to it. Hold on. So BioShock 2 Minerva's Den DLC, a character at the end of that gets back to the surface. And he opens a video game studio, and then you see the video games in Gone Home. And then Gone Home, the books that the dad writes are in the cabin in Firewatch.
What?
So
okay, that's cool.
By like tracing it backwards, there is reason to believe that Firewatch, Gone Home, and BioShock are all in universe together, which I find quite fun.
I like that a lot. That's fun. I like little nods like that. Okay,
Yeah,
cool. So
yeah.
so you could spend a few months in the middle of a national park, something I also daydream about a lot.
Oh, yeah,
and,
so good.
And then if you're like, oh, you know what? I fancy going to Rapture.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
something you could do.
I'll be like a marine
Bored now.
archaeologist, and I'll, it's like, depending on when it is in the timeline, it's like modern day. Rapture's presumably not like a problem anymore. It's just there. You can go see it.
Was BioShock 2 set in modern day?
BioShock
Rapture's
2 is
still
a
there?
bit later. So BioShock 1 is like 1960. I think it's like 1970-ish or a bit earlier.
Oh,
So-
yeah.
I assume it's kind of still down there. I always thought that was a really interesting like way of looking at the world of Gone Home and Firewatch, was like, maybe this amazing thing did happen, but no one ever really knew about it. And so it's just
Yeah.
like the hidden history of this world. I mean, I know it's like just a funny Easter egg, but also I find it really funny that the Easter egg is framed as kind of like actually being in universe. If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
That is funny.
It actually does position that character as a link between the two worlds rather than just like, oh, and it's,
I like it when you theory craft.
I
think
love
that's always
theory
fun.
Me
crafting.
too.
People get really like narked sometimes when you theory craft, and I'm just like, it's just fun, guys. Don't like
Why?
stress
Yeah.
too hard about it.
Making little links in your head. What's the harm in
Right?
that? Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
But all I'm
God
saying
forbid
is,
you have fun on the internet.
oh, I know, right? But like genuinely though, CM Porter, canonically a character in both BioShock 2 and Gone Home. So like, what are you going to do about it? Yes, it's probably a different version of him, but
Mhm.
I like that you've thought about this a lot. That's always
I've
fun.
thought about
It's always
this
fun
so
when we
much.
touch on a topic when you've thought about it a lot. And we're like, oh, she's thought about this a lot. That's fun.
I've written literal essays on this.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So yeah, this last one we're going to do today, we think, is from Luke Pastille on Twitter. Hope I pronounced that right. And the question is, and we had a lot of fun with this one. This is like poetry,
We did.
but we're still
We
trying
did.
to work out what it actually means. The question is, if a Michelin star restaurant served you Marmite on toast and told you it was Dark Souls 2, what does that make your favourite indie game if offered to you in a greasy spoon cafe? That's like beat poetry. That's beautiful. I'm not sure what it means, but I love it.
It sets the scene.
It's very well written.
It creates a
So
world.
I feel like Luke can't message into the podcast without me telling a little story. So Luke, it's such a lovely person. Luke has followed my personal stuff for years, way before I was a professional games journalist. Commented on my old YouTube videos, and his always left comments about this podcast. Luke, you're the
Aw.
best. I've never, I've always acknowledged that, always noticed that rather, and I really appreciate it. And Luke is maybe one of the reasons why I became a games journalist.
Aw.
So
Oh, hell
Luke
yeah.
used to be, very short story, Luke used to be the web designer for CVG back at Future when CVG was a big website. And CVG got a big redesign when I was still at university. So I was studying web design, was very into web design, but obviously my big interest was also games. I used to run a little gaming blog when I was at uni as well. And finding Luke on Twitter and seeing this incredible website he'd done for a big gaming brand, I was like, oh, this guy is like so cool. Like he's sort of at the intersection of two industries that I'm really interested in being part of. So a few years later, he does a call out on Twitter and he says, hey, I'm starting this new website. It was called Played with a couple of A's in the middle. Would anyone like to write for it? It was like an unpaid position. It was very much hobbyist. Everyone was just doing it because they wanted to, do this thing. And the website was really cool. The idea was a new issue would come out every few weeks, and it wasn't interested in sort of chasing trends. It was every few weeks. It would just sort of like recap the past few weeks with reviews and things like that. So Luke, I messaged and I was like, hey, I'm very inexperienced, but I would love to do this because I'd love to get the foot in the door. And he was like, yep, absolutely. Let's have a quick Skype chat to, just get to know each other, do a bit of a vibe check. Now, Yoli and I lived in a shared house at the time, and we were living in a tiny bedroom on the top floor of this mansion with like 10 other people. It was not a fun living situation. and my computer was at the far side of the room with the webcam facing the door behind me. She was in bed because there's nowhere else for her to be. So I jump on this call. I'm so nervous to talk to Luke. I'm like, wow, this feels like the first sort of step towards this career I eventually want to do. Luke is amazing. We're chatting, really hitting it off, really chatting about this idea for the site and how it can help and how he can help me. And my lovely darling wife, who I love and cherish with all my heart, is like, I need a wee. She's like, right, I don't want to interrupt Liam. Why would she interrupt me? She doesn't want to interrupt me at all. She's very caring and considerate. So she's like, okay, what I'll do is I will crawl across the floor and then go out of the room and go for a wee. And this will be fine, right? It's fine. I won't be in view. No one will know I'm there. She's thinking, this is the perfect crime. Side note, she's wearing a nightie, no pants. So she crawls across the floor, my lovely darling wife, and doesn't realise that my webcam, it's pretty good, pretty wide angle. You can see all the way down to the floor in this. And as she crawls by, her entire arse is out. So I'm talking to Luke, and he goes quiet, very polite. Luke is the best, professional all the way. I glance to the corner of the screen. It's just my girlfriend's bare ass in full view of the webcam. I cancel out the call in horror, and I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, I didn't think you could see me. I was like, I think he saw you. And then she, ran away, and I recalled, and it's one of those moments where I can't quite remember what happened. I think he did not mention it whatsoever. Like I said, Luke, you're the best. But I think I was like, sorry about that.
Oh my God.
And he was like, no problem. And I wrote for that site for like a couple of months. And like I say, he's always been invested. He sent a question into this podcast right now. Luke, you are the best. And
my God.
I want to thank you for all that. But my God, I was talking to Yoli about this and I was like, can I tell this story? And she was like, yeah, I don't care.
Amazing. I mean, that is a great story. If Yoli's cool with it being on the pod, I think.
That's fine.
So funny.
It's a fun story. As long as she's genuinely okay with that.
She's genuinely fine. Her only thing was, she was like, what if he's like, I can't remember that. And he just he never noticed. He never once knew that. That'd be very funny.
My goodness.
Well.
Anyway, yes, sorry. Just wanted to tell that story because I thought it was too funny not to.
That is a great story. That is, yes. I mean, I feel like we've all got a story like that. Sometime in your life.
We've
not exactly like that, but like I think, we've all misjudged the situation.
It was just
degree.
the way she crawled across the floor.
I've got abs.
She's the best. She really is.
It's so sweet as well, just the effort. The effort to not be distracting.
She was like so supportive, and she just did not want to intrude it. Like she didn't want to walk past the webcam because she thought that would be intruding. Like,
yeah. Oh dear, bless.
That is a good one. That is so good.
Yeah.
Bless her. Anyway, does anyone have an answer to the question?
What was the question?
If a Michelin star restaurant served you Marmite on toast and told you it was Dark Souls 2, what does that make your favourite indie game if offered to you in a Greasy Spoon cafe?
Okay, so this is just like our favourite indie games, but greasy foods.
Food.
Greasy,
I think so. Yeah.
Greasy Spoon cafe food. Mine is Disco Elysium, and it would be served to me in a polystyrene cup of black bitter coffee, and it would taste like shit, but also kind of nice.
I like it.
But the polystyrene cup is it needs to be a polystyrene cup. It can't be a mug. It needs to be like one of those like plastic that you can take a bite out of if you wanted to. It's one of those, and I'd probably have a hip flask on me and put whiskey in it.
Oh yeah, that's the secret sauce to that answer, definitely.
Yeah.
Mine would be Hypnospace Outlaw, but it would be a really satisfying cheese toasty with a couple of slices of chorizo and some chili jam inside, making it like an unexpected twist on a classic from my past.
Oh, hello.
Oh, he was proud of that one when he brought that.
Someone's thought about this. Hello.
Oh,
that's very good.
It's maybe the best thing I've written in years, I think.
Oh dear.
A cheese toasty description.
I don't know if I've got an answer now or if I'm just hungry.
That is
It's hard to say.
And the way you were like,
okay.
a twist on a childhood clip.
I don't know why I said it like that.
The delivery was amazing.
Oh,
Oh,
incredible.
excuse me,
Oh
I
my
think I need to
God.
cool down for a second by my own description of a cheese toast.
Oh, now that would be considered a hot opening.
Hot open.
Well, then we've got to keep that in to make the joke make sense.
Oh shit!
Oh shit. We've done it. We've referenced the
Never reference the cold open.
never reference things I want to cut out. No, we'll keep that in.
Oh dear.
Do you have an answer, Rebecca?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just making myself laugh now.
I know. I'm wheezing. My lungs hurt.
Oh.
There was. It's just reminded me of, I was recording the VG podcast the other day and I like sneezed right as we were starting to film. And then I made everyone, I was like, nobody talk about me sneezing for the rest of the episode, because if you do, then Jim will have to leave the sneeze in and then I'll end up on one of those sneeze porn sites. And then I have to explain sneeze porn sites. And I was like, right, we are having like 30 seconds of silence. I'm shutting you down. Nobody talks about sneeze porn for the rest of the episode because it's going to create a feedback loop of things that we need to keep in and reference. Anyway.
There's something so funny about being like, go, and then immediately.
Yeah, immediately coughing.
I am
So
extremely
funny.
allergic to everything. Also, like you give us a lot of credit if you think that there's anyone saying go. You just sort of like meander into it.
Do we do it more professionally than the VG podcast?
I mean, no comment.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yes.
Well, because the thing is, we record through Zencaster, so there's no need to like sync up audio. It's kind of all recording
yeah.
the same
Fair enough.
thing. So, there isn't the bit where we all sync up and start. There's just we kind of start chatting, and then at some point Jim hits record, and I'm like, ugh, and then I sneeze, and then it all just goes to hell.
Your body just explodes.
Yeah,
It's surprise. You're like, oh,
because as we all know, I'm allergic to everything and sneeze far too much. Anyway, answer to the question.
yes.
Right. Okay. Favorite indie game, obviously Monster Prom. Favorite greasy spoon food, probably jacket potatoes. I can make this work. Give me a second.
Okay.
So
let her cook.
So jacket potato, right? It's a solid, strong like base meal, but you can dress it up in a lot of different ways, which I think fits in very well with the iterative nature of Monster Prom, right?
Okay.
You go back,
Yep.
you have like many different variations on this game. You go back, you have it with beans, vampire boys.
Oh yes, that was my
Of
favorite
course.
order from Spudgy
Cheese.
Like.
Demons.
Cheese
I'm
demons.
really losing it.
Okay.
but that's my take, and I think it's mainly because like I'm a vegetarian, so I just usually end up getting a jacket potato from Greasy Spoons. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
it
Okay.
doesn't make a lot of sense. It makes a little bit of sense. And I just really like that question. I didn't even have a good answer for it. I just liked the
Vampires,
question so much.
cheese.
I mean, I really,
Beans.
yeah, it maybe fell apart slightly when you went beans, vampire boy.
The more you think about it, the more it's going to make sense.
It's
You're
a
gonna-
thinker. That was
Yeah.
a thinker.
You're
Yeah.
going to wake up at 4 a.m. and you're going to I know what she meant now.
Oh.
Sleep paralysis of what you mean.
It's like, my God, I've got it.
Yeah.
Vampires and beans.
Yeah. You know what? I was going to try and explain further, but no, I'm going to leave it as a
Oh.
thinker.
Both are saucy.
I like that.
I did have a reason.
Both are saucy,
that
that's good.
I think could have made sense, but I like it as it is now.
I think it's good. I think that answer is the perfect note to end this
Yeah.
episode on.
I'm quite tired, can you tell?
Just start listing ingredients. Listing hot people. Hot monsters.
Beans, microplastics.
Oh. Now that was before we started recording.
Oh shit, that was, yeah.
Yeah, keep that in as well.
Keep that
Oh,
in.
you can't keep that in. It was before we started recording.
I love keeping things in that have no context. It's a conversation no one heard.
Oh,
I'm editing
great.
this one, baby. I'm putting in what.
Great stuff.
Oh,
Great.
yes,
Leave it
wow.
in. Leave the mystery. I like
Leave
that
the
this
claps in.
Don't even edit it. Just upload 3 separate MP3 files.
Just be one of those podcasts that has like clearly no editing going on at all. It's like, and just keeping the mistakes.
No. Girl,
Oh.
the mouth noises. Honestly, I've only really since I've started editing, like I hear them and I'm like, I got.
Doesn't it break your brain?
Yes.
Yeah.
It does. I'm like hearing out for them, and I feel like I'm listening to them with my eyes because I can snatch them. I snatch them out of the edit. I'm like, ooh, like a samurai, like cut them out.
You start to overthink it so much. By the way, listener, Rachel has been editing. We now alternate editing podcasts, and she just taught herself how to do it. It was like incredible. She was I'm going to edit podcasts now, and I was like, all right, and then she just did it. It was like really barely. Let's be fair, but. Whenever I listen now to any podcast, I overthink everything. And even on our own, I'm like, do I edit out the breaths we take after we laugh? Like, your brain just breaks the second you start to edit podcasts. It's mad.
I'm like, wow. There's a lot of noises that I just do not hear,
humans are disgusting.
Apparently.
We make so many. The amount of times I'm like,
do not!
No space, outlaw.
Oh, God. I don't think I want to know what noises I'm making because I constantly have a low-level cold and I know I must be disgusting. So,
it's all three of us. It's honestly all three of us. It's not just one person.
No, I know it's not. I know it's not just one. I know it's just humans making human noises, and you filter it. You filter it in real life, but you don't when you. I totally get it.
When you're listening to it in crisp audio. You know what? I would have loved for you to have edited the Christmas special when I was loaded with COVID. That was gnarly.
Oh dear.
Drippy.
Just so drippy. Like a cave sister.
Well, I mean, good luck on this week's because I am, whatever I'm ill with, I'm very low level ill at the moment and my mouth is so dry. So I imagine there's going to be some real weird.
Dry's not a problem. It's when it's like.
Oh, no.
She can't even say it.
Oh, no.
Let's not. Okay.
Shall we move on to
skip to hyperfixation? Shall we treat ourselves
God,
to some...
quickly.
Let's treat ourselves to some hyperfixations before this goes some places that we can't ever return from the same people.
Okay, but Drippy would have made a great dwarf. Like Snow White and Seven Dwarfs. They should have had Drippy.
Oh, Drippy.
Well, replace Sneezy, because otherwise you just got, there's a lot of competition for a similar...
Oh, yeah. Okay, Drippy could be no. Has the drip.
Oh, God.
It's got the drip.
No, what about, hold on, post-nasal drip? Is there something in there? Is that a thing? I don't know.
He's got those Nikes on. He's wearing Balenciaga. Oh, drip.
The Adidas.
Drippy.
Oh, my God. The Astro Boy boots.
Oh.
Ew. Okay.
Ew. We've got to move on.
We do.
So
we gotta
late.
go. We gotta go. I gotta go. I gotta go, guys.
Yeah.
You're skipping hyperfixations this week.
My Uber's here. I gotta go.
My hyperfixation is leaving this podcast immediately.
Love you both. Bye.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I didn't think this would be the one to break us, but the signs have been there all night, haven't they, really?
Okay, listen. It was the arse out on camera, Yoli's amazing iconic moment, and it just escalated from there. That sent me into orbit, and now I don't know where the fuck I am. And then we started talking about cheese and vampires.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Jacket potatoes are dating sims.
Think
about it. Think about it, Rachel.
It will come back. It will.
I will text you at 4 a.m. if I... Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to know if any listeners can figure out what I was talking about, because I actually do know. I do know what I mean. But
contact at...
Sorry, is there anything more powerful than releasing a podcast and after 2 hours being like, hi, listener, if you understood that, I'd love to be the first to know.
Yeah. Translate me back to me, please. It's been a long day.
Oh.
Anyway, who's got a hyperfixation? Come on, people.
Yes, let's go.
I'll go first. My hyperfixation is the Southern Reach trilogy by Jeff Vandermeer. After you two recommending this for a couple of episodes, I bought the trilogy for a very reasonable price. Started Annihilation, read that in about 6 days, moved immediately on to the sequel Authority, finished that in 6 days, and I'm now
shit.
150
You
pages
finished-
into Acceptance. Yes, I finished
finished
Authority.
Oh my
Okay.
god.
These are some of the best books I have ever read. I am
Yes.
in love. I saw the movie a long time ago and thought it was pretty good. Now that I've read the book, I'm like, why did they ever try to adapt this into a film? It is the best. It has incredible creepy vibes. I should probably explain what it's about. I will only explain what Annihilation is about. Annihilation is a book about a team of scientists and military trained personnel who go into a zone that appeared randomly in America called Area X that is protected by a mystical or supernatural border of unknowable qualities. And it charts a character known only as the biologist as she interacts with her teammates and tries to just explain to you, the reader, the things she experiences whilst inside Area X. And it captures the unknowable quality of the unknown, I guess, better than any book I've ever read. It's the first book I think I've ever read in my whole life where I would sometimes just furrow my brow and think, no, I need to go back 3 pages and reread everything I've just read because, you know, the author has explained it perfectly, but it makes no sense to me. And it is meant to be unknowable, and that's what makes it so fantastic. But what I love about this trilogy is that while Annihilation is this beautifully crafted book about exploration into just the madness of the unknown. I'm going to keep saying the unknown because I don't know what else to describe it as. Authority, without saying a single thing about it, is a punchline to a joke you didn't even know was being set up. And I actually ended up liking Authority more than Annihilation. I thought it was a much more interesting and fun book for reasons I'm not going to say because I just think you need to read the trilogy.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, these two bloody co-hosts of mine, they know a good trilogy when they read one.
Hi, this is Liam from Indie-Discovery. I just wanted to pop in and apologize for how often I just said the word unknown. Editing the last few minutes was as painful for me as I assume it was for you to listen to it. It's worth remembering that I was employed full-time as a writer for 2 years, and I still couldn't think of another word to describe something beyond human comprehension. Jesus fucking Christ. Anyway, back to the show.
Well, I've only read the first one and I'm happy with the second. It was Rebecca who was like, you both need to get your asses back in gear and read them.
So good.
For what it's worth, yeah, book 2 is my favorite. So
See, I'm still firm on book 1, but I'm halfway through book 2 and I'm like, oh, it's so good.
it's so good.
so
I'm so glad that
good.
you're both enjoying it just because, like, I love it. I think they're genuinely my favorite books of the 2010s. Like,
Yeah, I can understand that.
books of the decade for me, and I read a lot of books in the 2010s. So I don't want to say anything because I obviously really want to talk to you about it, but also I don't want to like dive into heavy spoiler territory for Rachel and for listeners who might not have read these books yet. But yeah, I would just second that recommendation and say I'm gonna absolutely need to corner you for a chat on Discord in the next couple of days.
Listeners, read the first one. It's like the shortest book ever.
Yeah,
it's not,
it
but
is.
it's pretty short.
It's
It
so
is
snackable,
so
though.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like nothing else I've ever read.
No.
The ecological horror.
Yes,
Get into it.
Yes. Oh,
Get
that's such
into
a bad.
it.
I wish I'd phrased it like that. That's the perfect way of describing it. Yeah. It's just so beautifully paced. It reveals just enough to keep you going. And like, I kind of love that if you're going into these expecting like concrete answers, that you're not going to get them, but that's what makes them so good because you just sit there and you think, well, what could that be? You know, I've been given enough information to think further, and like, no, if they ever explained it all, it wouldn't be as interesting because then it would be mundane and boring. But as it stands,
it's like if you need a hook,
I'm in a place.
If you haven't read these books and you came to us because we're a video games podcast and you need kind of a place to get into, like, it's very like the storytelling of Remedy games is fairly inspired by, like, especially Control is quite inspired by these books. So
Yeah.
You know, and Alan Wake 2, I think, I haven't played it yet, but I feel like it very much is in that vein of like cosmic horror, but without removed from the influence of Lovecraft, who obviously is like the great grandfather of all cosmic horror. But if you kind of really want something that moves away from that and everything that kind of, the baggage that comes with like Lovecraftian inspirations, to something, as you say, more ecological and more kind of like neutral. Look up New Weird. Basically, look up New Weird. It will like change your life as a genre. It's so good. So good.
They're brilliant.
So good.
Did you say he's writing a fourth one?
Yes, it should. I think it's going to be out this year, because 6 months ago, I think he tweeted and said he'd just finished. He just like handed the draft in.
What's it
Oh
called?
my god,
Do you know?
we gotta get our skates on.
Oh,
I gotta read it.
Oh man, I'll be
it-
finished in like 3 days at the pace
I've
I'm going.
got it written down.
Oh no, I need to read
somewhere.
faster.
I've got it written down. It's going to be called Absolution, apparently.
Yes.
When you find out why the first book is called Annihilation, by the way,
Oh,
I
yes.
gasped.
my god, I full on through the book.
Oh,
I would go back and I would reread like those couple of pages. like,
those arts, those pages.
Stop.
Yes.
But, like, Rachel, I don't know how far you are in Authority, but there's like 3 or 4 moments in Authority as well where I was like, what the fuck? Oh, read these books. Read these books.
I'm not allowed to say, because I apparently
Nope,
ruined this
can't
a
say
bit
a
for friend of the
single word.
podcast, Nick. But like, now that I know you finished it, Liam, I need to talk to you about
We
something.
we need a book club channel on Discord.
We do,
I
we
really
Yes, we
need
do.
one. And then add me and I'll join when I'm done.
Yeah, and you can
You
read
two
through the
stay
chat. Yeah, that's a good shout. Because I have
That's
been
a good
messaging
idea.
Rebecca about it. So
That's
yeah,
a good
we should.
idea.
So have a book one, and then I'll join when I fit. It will make me want to finish as well, because like I don't know, books, dude. I'm like I struggle with books sometimes, but I need to finish this one so bad.
Oh,
You do.
they're so
Yeah.
good. They're so good.
I read some today. I'm slowly getting there.
Nice.
I can manage maybe like it's a bit embarrassing, but like maybe 20 pages a day. I just get really distracted, and I need to try.
That's pretty normal. That's probably how much
Yeah.
I read normally.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
same,
good.
to be fair.
Yeah.
I just can't read for more than like half an hour. Actually, how long it takes me to read 20 pages? I don't know what the normal amount is.
I mean,
Yeah,
same.
about half an hour.
But
I don't know.
this has been my hyperfixation in like a very aware way. I'm like, oh yeah, this is all I want to do is read these books.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, okay,
Oh.
it's quite nice when my ADHD attaches itself to reading. It's rare that it
Yeah.
does, and not
That's
like,
actually the 5th book is called ADHD.
oh my god,
It's all
That's the
connected.
That's the 5th one.
that would make a lot
Jeff
of sense.
confirmed on Twitter.
And he tagged me in the tweet.
He tagged you.
He's like, oh, I've actually just met a real freak of a guy, and the 5th book is all about him.
Oh my god! I listened to this podcast and got inspired.
The unknowable cosmic horror of Liam Richardson.
So yeah, there's inner workings.
An enigma.
Screaming in there. Anyway,
Oh,
yes.
that's a
so
good one.
thank you for the
wow.
recommendation. I mentioned it to my sister when I saw her on Sunday. Oh, I'm reading some books at the moment. Annihilation. She went, oh yeah, the ones you mentioned on the podcast. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to listen to the podcast.
Love it.
What are your hyperfixations, gang?
Why don't you go next, Rebecca?
Sure, mine would be quite quick, I think. Because yeah, I like you were saying, it's sometimes you've just got something that's really hooked you, and sometimes it's more like, I just want to recommend this thing that's kind of in the mix for me at the moment, but I can probably do it without like, I definitely squealed more at yours than I will at mine, but that's okay. Sometimes that's how
Yeah, me
that's how
too.
life goes.
Me
Just how
too,
it happens.
absolutely.
I just wanted to talk about something that I watched while I was on holiday last week. We watched a few films on Netflix, and one of the ones that we watched is called Remember. So it's like but it's like re/member. If that it'll make sense in a minute.
Ooh.
It's a Japanese horror film, obviously.
Okay.
No, I mean, not obviously. I do watch other things. I also watched an Italian murder mystery comedy while I was on holiday. So I'm very
Oh.
I'm very glamorous and all that. But no, this is a film that kind of caught my attention because it's about time loops, which was the
hello.
subject we
Oi.
just recorded
Oi.
our time loop
Oi, oi.
episode.
She wasn't
Um,
done. She wanted. She.
Yeah, much like a time loop.
Here we are again. But yeah, it's a good. Honestly, I didn't look up any reviews before I watched it, and I really enjoyed it. And after I watched it, I read some reviews, and it got absolutely panned. So
really?
take this recommendation with a pinch of salt, because it was like 1 and 2 star reviews across the board. Bear in mind, I'm not a professional film reviewer. That's not where I'm at. This is just a hobbyist thing. But I really enjoyed it genuinely. I thought this was a very entertaining film. So it's got all the hallmarks of like a thing that Rebecca's gonna love, right? Because it's about these 6 kids in this high school, and they're all from different cliques, and
we should have guessed,
right?
We should have guessed the plot before.
They get caught in this time loop. But what I loved about it was it's a double time loop. So they
double time loop.
A double time loop.
They end up repeating this day over and over again, which is like a kind of normal day at school. And then when the clock hits midnight that night, they get transported to this like otherworld version of the school, where they get caught in this like getting chased by this monster, and they've got to like essentially beat a certain set of conditions to beat the monster and break the time loop. And like it got really people were panning it because they were like, oh, it's really derivative. I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen any story do this before, where they have like the normal day of the time loop and then the outside of time, like almost 13th hour sort of like grisly horror of the kind of extra loop. In terms of like characterization, it was a little bit like, obviously you've essentially got like, oh, you know, the dropout kid and the very like academic kid and the shy kid who's getting bullied, and like there is that, but I thought it was broadly like well acted and well written. It got a little bit like towards the end, it leaned a little bit heavily on like the power of love and friendship to defeat this, and I was like, you had me until then. It got a bit too much into that, but I don't think it was to the total detriment of the entire movie. And it was like it is like quite gory horror, because the thing is like they can die in the loop, but then they just get brought back at the start.
God.
But there is a certain condition in which you can get perma-killed in the loop, and that like adds another complication and stuff. And it was just for like an hour and a half, an hour and 3/4. It was a fun like teen coming of age horror movie. I was like, I definitely watched worse things that have been better received.
It sounds very much your shit.
It was very much. It was so fun. It was so fun.
It's okay to watch like a 2-star movie every once in a while. I think that's good for your diet.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But I was there like, this is for me, this is like 4 stars. It just goes to show that I'm not like, you know, I have a certain professional ability to assess like video games and books, less so movies, clearly, but I genuinely really enjoyed it. So
good, nice.
If you like time loop horror, it's on Netflix. Member, give it a go.
Nice. That's a really good recommendation. Yeah, love it. More 2-star movie recommendations, I think. Why not?
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. More very incredibly niche recommendations that maybe is not for everyone, but like is so your shit. It's like,
I mean,
5 stars.
Yeah.
Well, this section isn't called recommendations, it's hyperfixation. So it's like, it's perfectly suited for that, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. What about you, Rachel?
Yeah, Rachel.
Mine is a game called This Bed We Made.
Ooh, I've heard of this one.
I saw you playing this.
I've heard a lot of good things about this one.
This came out November last year. I was just like, it's a bit too pricey. I think that for 21 quid, like, I think we'll wait until it's on sale. I didn't wait. I bought it full price because I was like, you know what? I do want to play this game. So I played it last week. It is so good. It's like this detective game where you play as a hotel maid who basically is just a bit nosy. And she kind of stumbles upon a conspiracy while she's like cleaning out one of the guest bedrooms, which then takes her on a kind of like room hopping detective spree of like solving this like grand mystery. And it's really good. It's like, it's kind of like got those like Life is Strange mechanics where you're like reading a lot of stuff and picking things up and notes and everything. There are parts where you are like chatting with your fellow colleagues as well, and how you behave and whether you decide to clean up rooms or not puts you on different story paths. There's some sapphic romance in it. It's very queer friendly. Like, that was surprising to me. I was like, this game rules, because it's set in the 1950s. So I was a bit like, wasn't expecting much of that. But actually, it's like one of the best queer games I've played, maybe from last year. Yeah, it's really cool. And I was like, I don't know. I didn't hear much about it. I didn't hear much chatter about it. I think it's kind of just yeah, it's just a good detective game, and I had fun, and I played through it twice. I played through it the first time, not understanding really the full mystery, and I think the game kind of lets you play it without these roadblocks of like really trying to solve the mystery. It's very much like a linear game in terms of those little story differences that I talked about. But
I see what you mean.
So I played through it a second time just to really fully understand the mystery and names, and it's very friendly in that respect. There's like a book of like characters you can read up on, and like of all your evidence and clues and things. Yeah, it's really fun, and I had a good time. And I love games where you are being really like really like, I don't know, nosy and snooping through people's shit. I think that's so much fun. And yeah, it was great. And Sophie as a character as well is so adorable. Like, like you can there's two people in the hotel that you can kind of like go into a romance with, and one of them is with this like really I don't know, this like woman who works the front desk, and she's like really cool and a bit older than Sophie, and she's like great, but like Sophie's so shy. And like, I don't know, I really like her. I was like, ooh, she's like, I'm like crushing on this like really cute, like nosy maid. Because like, I don't know, she's just adorable. And like the voice actor, I don't know who it is, unfortunately. I didn't know I'd be gushing about her this much, if I'm honest. But like, I don't know, she's just really sweet. And yeah, and it's just a really good 4-hour detective game that doesn't take much effort, but I had a great time. And
that's so fun.
Yeah, there's like cool bits as well, like if you decide to like do something or not. And I like that they're not major things, but they are like story things. So I like that there was a bit of like, oh, so it does matter whether I clean this room or not, or if it matters if I leave a suitcase opened of a room I cleaned instead of shutting it and leaving the place like I found it. Like it takes those like actions into account, which I think sometimes detective games don't. Like you can ruffle through people's stuff and no one gives a shit, but like if you tamper with these people's rooms, they'll know, or at least the hotel will know, and it can be used against you. So yeah, it's just really great game. Love it. I had this very nice surprise, so I'm very happy with that.
This just slipped under the radar, eh?
100%.
I've heard
I have no idea why.
about it. Like the only reason I know you were playing it is because I saw you playing this game and I was like, what the hell is that? And I assumed it was something new. And I was like, what? This came out last year. So that's wild.
Don't
get me wrong. It's not like
November.
Yeah, well, it was November 1st.
Stuff that gets released in November gets lost often, I think.
Yeah, that is
true.
true.
Yeah. It's not like a super game. Like it's not like, but it's just a really solid game.
Yeah.
A solid detective game. And
awesome.
Which is queer as fuck. And I was like, wait, when like it happens. I don't know. You're just like waiting for that moment, like when your fucking sports team scores a goal. Oh my god,
we all know that feeling. We all know that feeling where you're there like,
of course. When your favorite sports team, scores that goal.
I know exactly what you mean, though. I will often be sat down and be like, wait a minute, my gaydar's going off. I have an excellent
it's like,
fictional
here we
gaydar.
go.
Real life, not so
Are
much.
they
Like,
going for it?
but in fiction, I'm always like, this is happening.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh,
I think it's deliberate. And then,
get in!
Let's go.
That's really good. I'd seen that a couple of streamers that I follow had played this. I haven't seen. I don't know anything about it, but I kind of was aware of it, and it was on my. I just checked. It's on my Steam wish list. It's okay. It's already on there. But yeah, your recommendation has again definitely pushed it kind of up the queue a little bit because it sounds so good.
I played the first playthrough in one sitting, and then I went back the next day and played through it again.
Awesome.
Maybe it's even like 3 hours. It depends on how fast you read.
Of course, yeah. You can.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it was just a really good evening game. I normally don't play games in one sitting because again, I like doing different stuff and I can't really pay attention. But this game was great. I was sailing through. So yeah, this bed we made by Low Birth Games, who I don't think have done anything else. This could be a debut, which is great. That's awesome if it is. I mean, on Steam they don't have any other games listed. So very impressive. I will be looking to see what they do next.
Yeah.
But yeah,
excellent
I think
recommendation.
I think it popped up more for YouTubers and streamers than maybe it did in like the for like websites and stuff.
Yeah, okay. So
yeah.
maybe just not within the circles that we traditionally. Well, I mean, like Rebecca's seen people stream it, and
yeah.
I think Eurogamer streamed it, but I think otherwise it was mostly like people who very much are aside from the sort of traditional games media, were maybe the people who were paying more attention to it. So.
Oh my god! And also, if you're like into Sims, maybe like House Flipper and stuff, you can clean the rooms.
Oh, can you actually?
I'm sorry, that's a really important point as well.
That is
so you can like, so like Power
you got
or
both of
something.
us in one sentence. That was great.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
We both lit up there.
totally
A detective game with house flipping mechanics. I'm buying it immediately.
Well, it's like so you can like make the bed and like clean the mirror and the bath and like empty the bins and stuff.
Oh yeah, screw the mystery, screw the romance. Those
I'm gonna be
rooms
the
gonna be
best
so
hotel
fucking
maid.
tiny.
But that's the thing. You can like totally leave the rooms like in a shambles, or you can clean them. Are you covering up evidence? Are you leaving evidence behind? Like, who are you setting up, and who are you like? It's just really
Yeah, can I play it where none of it's my fucking business and I just do my job and then close the game?
Oh, I love games that let you play them like that though, where it's like you can just there's like horror games that let you just leave. That's another example.
Oh yeah, they just turn around and go.
Always
You
great
just
fun.
leave.
It's like, why would anyone not leave? And then you leave and you're like, great.
There's at one point there's like there's like a notice board of like red bed. You just clean that shit up. Like, this is none of my business, and just clean it.
Can you
Just take all
actually?
it down.
Oh my god, I really want to play this and just see what happens if you just ignore
How
everything.
much you can just roleplay as a maid who just does not care
literally,
about anything other than getting stuff clean. Amazing.
Yeah. Oh, well, there we go. It's a it's a cleaning sim. That's the
A cleaning sim with optional mystery.
optional detective. Yeah.
It's I'm not paid enough for this shit simulator.
Basically describe Power Wash sim there.
No, my monkey's not my circus.
I love that phrase so much.
Right.
Absolutely.
Oh,
right. Shall we bring this to a close?
We
think
shall.
so.
This has been absolutely wonderful. We haven't spoken for 3 weeks, and I think the fact that this podcast is 2 hours 22 minutes long is proof of that.
Yeah, attest that. We chatted for an hour before we hit record.
We did, and
yeah,
we're
we
talking on
did.
Thursday.
Yeah, and we're gonna just meet up on Thursday.
We
also.
are.
Yeah, I think we still like each other, even though we got really tried to break some friendships with some of those questions today, but we made it.
Did.
Made it.
Spicy.
So much for all the questions, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much
You really
for the
did come
questions.
through with
Really
this.
appreciate them. Like, sorry we didn't get around to a lot of them, but we will definitely circle back in a number of episodes time and go through some more questions, because this was really fun. I thought, honestly, I think we did 7 in the end, which is pretty good considering
Nice.
That is good.
considering how many places we went with like every question. But yeah, thank you very much once again to everyone who sent questions in, and thank you just for listening and for all your support. It's always hugely appreciated. We hit 6,000 downloads the other day, which is always really nice.
Yay!
Yeah, we
when
did.
we hit another milestone. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening.
You said at the start about like this is a hobby, and you know we really appreciate when people ask us about like additional community stuff and Patreons. I don't want to speak for all three of us, but I'm always just constantly surprised by how successful this is.
Right.
So it's a lot of just like, oh yeah, we didn't think this would happen. So we didn't think about what to do next.
Yeah. We were expecting
so
at least a
lovely.
lot more time to spin up, I think, as well.
Absolutely. But yeah, thank you everyone. It's so appreciated. It really is.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Trail off.
See ya.
See ya.
Yeah. Someone please edit something better over that. All right. Good night, everybody.
Indieventure is a video games podcast created, produced, hosted, and edited by Rachel Watts, Rebecca Jones, and me, Liam Richardson. For more information, including a list of every game we mentioned in this episode, make sure to check out our website, indieventurepodcast.co.uk. You can get in touch by sending your questions, comments, and feedback to contact@indieventurepodcast.co.uk. indieventure.co.uk. You can support the show by rating us 5 stars and leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or your preferred podcast provider of choice. Some of the games we talk about on the show may have been provided to us for free for review consideration. Our intro music and stings were composed for us by Ollie Newbury. Check the episode description to hear more of his excellent tunes. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks for another episode of Indieventure. Bye for now.